It is the moment you have all been waiting for. That's right. The Republican Party is actually drafting a Biden impeachment, articles of impeachment over his cutting off of the military aid to Israel because, as we all know, that's illegal. I love this. When the other day we were getting ready to do the show, we were trying to figure out if we're going to do the RFK brainworm story, which was hilarious, or the Israel Biden story, which was kind of in development. And the title was Biden illegally withholds aid. And of course, all the people who despise Israel were like, how dare you call it illegal? Which, of course, calling it illegal is it's a callback to when Democrats said it was illegal for Trump to withhold aid to Ukraine. So we're kind of just making that point. Well, Corey Mills says the House has no choice but to impeach President quid pro Joe Biden. Shout out to Corey Mills. So we'll talk about that. And there's also this really fascinating story, which may be baseless accusations, but a pitch deck, allegedly or purportedly, of Trump supporters supporting RFK Jr. Now, it may not be true. It may be that this pitch deck just took their tweets anyway without their knowledge. But the idea is that these accounts are working with some firm to be former Trump supporters who are going to pitch for RFK Jr. instead. Thus, perhaps it is true. The real shadow campaign may be RFK Jr. We'll talk about that, plus a bunch of other fun and funny stories. Before we do, head over to castbrew.com and buy coffee. We got some great coffee. We've got Appalachian Nights, everybody's favorite. We got Alex Stein's Primetime Grind, and we just ripped our sponsorship with for Alex Stein's show over at The Blaze because he has the best ads ever. Apparently, Lila Hart said that Alex asked her to promote Cast Brew Coffee on the show because we sponsor him. And then when the show goes on the air, she goes, drink Cast Brew, it will give you spinal bifida. And then Alex Stein's like, what are you doing? But I thought it was hilarious. So, you know, we're here to have a fun time. So if you want to support the show, Cast Brew Coffee, it's also supporting our physical locations. Really, really great news in the Cast Brew front. I mean, the sales are fantastic. Revenue generation is wonderful. We are pulling no funds from Cast Brew. We are using it to invest because we want to build physical places, physical locations where y'all can hang out and network, and we can get a foothold outside of the internet and in the real world. But also head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member. If you want to come and call us, we have a call-in show, which is Monday through Thursday, members only, uncensored, at 10 p.m. after the main show. It's when we take your calls. So if you do have questions, it's really cool. The way it works is you become a member at $10 a month. 6 months later, your account graduates. And this is a screening process to make sure that weirdo activists don't get in. Or you become a member at $25 and you instantly graduate. So we have one or the other, either time or money, because we're trying to create some kind of screening. You submit a question, everybody votes on it. The ones who get the most approval or whatever are the ones who get to ask the questions for the show. So they're good questions. It's good for everybody and it's good fun. And plus the membership is what sustains the show. So we could use your support. Smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with all your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and a whole lot more is Dr. Taylor Marshall.
I'm Dr. Taylor Marshall. I'm the best-selling author of 12 books. I run a podcast with over 1 million subscribers, followers. We talk about politics, philosophy, theology, Catholicism. And I live in Texas with my wife. We have 8 children.
Wow. Awesome. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah. And I will say this too. I think normally when we have specialist guests, I always say we usually start with the news stories to give everybody that, here's like the big stories that we saw. And then maybe later on in the show, we get into maybe like some specialty stuff. But, I absolutely would love to talk about eschatology.
Yeah.
End times. I mean,
Antichrist.
Considering all the Israel stuff, I think we're gonna walk right into it in 10 minutes. But this should be fun. So thanks for hanging out.
Yeah.
Red heifers. Yeah. That's right.
All right.
We got Phil hanging out.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary. How you doing, Anna Claire?
I'm good, Phil. It's good to see you. I'm Hannah Claire Brimla. I'm a writer for SCNR.com. That's Scanner News. Mother's Day Sunday, so you guys should all make plans immediately because I'm sure some of you have forgotten. Hi, Serge.
Hello. Hope you guys are having a good day. Let's get started.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Fox News says House GOP drafting Biden impeachment articles over Israel aid cutoff threat. The House has no choice but to impeach President quid pro Joe Biden, says Rep. Corey Mills. Shout out to Rep. Corey Mills. He is based AF. And I do want to stress, it's not a threat. It's been reported extensively that Biden's already withheld military aid likely because the protests are really putting pressure on the Democratic Party. And I wonder if this is really scrambling the brains of Democrats, because you'd expect Democrat donors with the TikTok bill, they're very pro-Israel. But then you learn that Soros, Pritzker, and Rockefeller foundations, their donations are going to supporting these protests. I wonder if what's happening is that Joe Biden sees the big donors making those moves and then says, we better back off Israel because the donors are getting mad. The donors don't actually know that they're funding these far left protests. And reportedly, they stopped those donations, except for Soros. But some of the big donors pulled their donations when they found out what was going on. So I'm wondering if everything is just really scrambled and they don't know what to do. Or, honestly, I got no idea, but OSINT Defender on Twitter says senior U.S. officials have now revealed an addition to the delayed sale of 6,500 Joint Direct Attack Munition, JDAM kits to Israel, worth roughly $260 million last week. The Biden administration has now also paused the delivery of 1,700 Mark 82 500-pound bombs and 1,800 Mark 84 2,000-pound bombs. So this actually is from the 7th, right? So the idea that he has just threatened to cut Israel off, not true. He actually already cut them off. Corey Mills accused Biden of forcing Israel into a quid pro quo situation by leveraging U.S. dollars against the Israel government's actions in Gaza, drawing parallels to Democrats' first impeachment of former President Trump over his handling of Ukraine aid. I just got to stress this. The Democrats argued Trump threatened to withhold aid from Ukraine unless they would dig up dirt to help him politically. Joe Biden is now literally pulling congressionally approved military aid because Israel's moves into Rafah are damaging his support base.
The function is the same. Right?
Absolutely.
So it's just that it is Donald Trump did X for Y, and the exact same thing is being done now. Joe Biden is doing X for Y. It is the same thing. It is politically motivated. There was someone that was giving me grief on the internet because I'd made a remark that he was doing the same thing, and they're like, "How can you say it's the same thing?" It's like, and the argument was just, the thing that Trump did was so much worse because the orange man is bad, and it's ridiculous to think that. It's ridiculous to try to make that argument, and anyone that does is fundamentally unserious.
Well, he's really orange, and that's deeply offensive. I mean, the defense that I am seeing form from the White House right now, John Kirby, the Biden administration spokesperson, said, well, Biden is still going to send military aid. He's just not going to send U.S. military, U.S. weapons to Rafah. So that's good, right? Like, the Biden administration is trying to walk
I think
on
that's a
every
ridiculous
side.
lie.
It's super. Also, if that's true, that's so illogical that it would be like, here, have aid, but don't use it over there. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, they're not
So the
going
Biden
to do
administration cannot navigate their way out of this situation. They've been trying to play both sides for too long. And in fact, they're deeply unethical. And so it's not surprising to me. I mean, I'm grateful for Mills for being like, hey, we need to call this out. This is not okay. And if we're supposed to hold one president to one standard, let's apply it to this president who seems to have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, and it seems they're playing both sides, like you said. And I think it has to do with the tremendous pressure and some of these protests and campus, and they realize the young vote. I mean, he's dangling, hey, we're going to cancel your school debts. But he also sees they're the same people who are extremely passionate about this issue. And so I don't know. Maybe he's just trying to appease them a little bit.
He's slipping with the youth vote.
Yep.
And now it feels like, it's hard to believe, but it feels like there's the Democratic Party's become a chicken with its head cut off. Like I was saying earlier, you've got these the donors who it's the Pritzkers, it's Rockefeller, it's Soros. The Soros family, they just keep giving the money; they don't care. But the Pritzkers, and which is I think that the Hyatt. This is a big Politico report, and Rockefeller cut the funding, so they're probably funding these groups and then not realizing they're funding it. You saw this with those the billionaires who are giving all this grant money to universities, now pulling that, not realizing what they were funding. But I think that's a good example of it. They were funding it without realizing it, that these far leftists hate Israel and they hate the U.S. Military policy. Joe Biden's trying to have it both ways. He's losing Jewish voters and youth voters, and he's trying to capture both, and he can't do it.
No, there's no way you can do it. Like, you can't on one hand be pro-Palestinian movement and at the same time be pro-Israel. You absolutely have to pick a side. You can say that I don't want to be involved. If the U.S. were to say, well, we're going to completely and totally stay out of it, they could.
That's a great idea.
Well, I mean, whether or not that's probably something that's not going to happen as much as any of us may want it. But that being said, like, if it's not going to happen, you can't, as an administration, you can't say we're going to play both sides against the middle. It's too. One side wants to exterminate the other.
Now the question is, should we impeach Joe Biden?
Why not?
You want Kamala?
Because we don't want the Democrats to replace him at the last minute. Look, we're trying to figure out what the shadow campaign of 2024 is. And it may just be they'll try ballot harvesting again. I don't think so, because Republicans are wise to that and are planning it too. Maybe RFK Jr. is going to be the shadow campaign.
The worm.
The worm is the shadow in his brain. But RFK initially is kind of lefty. And so Trump supporters say, who cares? And then not the last minute, RFK is starting to switch around and go after not Trump's base, but going after moderates. Maybe he's the shadow campaign. Or maybe it's Biden commits an egregious illegal act warranting impeachment, putting Republicans in a bind. Either you impeach the guy who did something wrong that everyone can see and he's bleeding support, or play politics, refuse to uphold the law and your responsibilities under the Constitution, and then what are the American people going to think?
Makeup of the Senate. He'll never get removed from office. There's zero to lose by the Republicans actually bringing up
I was
the charges. Do it all. Like, the House should bring up the papers, write them up, get them into the Federal Register, make sure that it goes into the Library of Congress. He was impeached because of, so that way you see, so it's on the record. Then the Senate will not actually remove him from office. Who cares? Make him and the Democrats punish them, make them defend what they just did. Like, now, because of the fact that you're not going to get rid of Joe Biden because of the Senate, now's the time the House and the Republicans should be screaming this. Should be every single Republican out there should be like, look, he did this, blah, blah, blah. And they should be driving it home because it's the best argument they got.
And I really don't think this would happen. But what if it goes to the Senate and the Democrats in the Senate go, we would be hypocrites if we did not agree with this. When Donald Trump broke the law with his illegal withholding of aid to Ukraine and his quid pro quo, we stood proudly, and the Republicans did not. We stand before you today and say we will hold Joe Biden accountable for defying Congress. We are not the hypocrites the Republicans are.
If they do that, I'll shave my beard.
Oh my gosh, Congress, please. No, but the thing
fair point, though. They wouldn't do that.
The thing is, there are only 51 Democratic senators, and theoretically, you could have someone lobby who's like, I think Biden, I don't know that this would work, but hypothetically, you could have some interest group come along and say, his actions in Gaza are so serious that you need to vote him out no matter what. And then they would just have to join with Republicans. Like, it is, because this issue has hurt his campaign and his legacy as president. Not that it was so good before, but it's hurt him so badly that it's weird. It makes his impeachment more likely than Mayorkas. And we know Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security, has done a terrible job.
It's everything you're saying is true. It's just the most likely outcome would be that he wouldn't. You know?
No, I agree.
And I kind of want to push back, Tim. Do you think the billionaires didn't know they were funding this?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Some of them, yeah.
Soros knows.
Exactly.
And
but
Soros and his kid, they know.
They don't watch TV? I mean...
No.
Like, have you followed...
No.
Have you followed there's two great stories, great legendary arcs. It's Bill Ackman, right?
Yeah.
And Michael Rappaport. And Rappaport is not a billionaire who's funding the stuff, but he's an anti-Trump comedian. He had no idea that the Gen Z millennial youth left hate Israel and want Israel wiped off the map.
Right.
He was completely oblivious to this. There's no way he would have supported them if he thought that was the case.
Go ahead.
I was going to say Ackman too.
Yeah, well, we had Marianne Williamson on here, and we were talking about some of the things that get put into the school books and LGBT classes or LGBT content in books and stuff. She had no idea of some of the actual pornographic images and ideas that were going into books. Had no idea. We showed him, and she was aghast. I have friends. I'm in a metal band, and so I spend time in California and stuff. And I have friends out there that have no idea about some of the things that or they think. So one of my great friends, I love this kid to death, but he really believed that you couldn't say gay in Florida, like you would get in trouble. We were playing a show. Listen, we were playing a show, and he said, look, I'm going to say gay on stage. I'm like, dude, be my guest, no problem. He's like, I'm gonna walk up to the mic and say it. I'm like, it's fine, dude. Go right ahead. Because I knew nothing would happen. Because that's the thing. It's
That's
people
so
believe.
He's like shaking when he's like,
no, he's not. He was like, I'm gonna do it.
Bill, are you gonna pay my bail? Like I'm about to get arrested for saying this word.
He was like, oh, F them. I'm like, dude, I love you. Go right ahead. There's nothing's gonna happen, but go ahead. But the thing is, but the point is, people really, really don't know reality. I understand. And the reason I bring this up is because you seemed so genuine, and you're like, do you really think? Not only do I think, I can go and give you example after example after example. And yes, these are anecdotes. I understand that completely. But when you're around here enough and you hear people talking about this stuff, people that because we are always looking to speak to people that have differing opinions from us, and they are constantly completely unaware of things, have no idea. And it's like that Dennis Prager bit when he was on the episode with Bill Maher, when he said, men, you'll be blah, blah, blah. You'll be ostracized for saying that men don't menstruate. And everybody laughed because they don't know.
Yeah.
He said, the left pushes lies.
Yes.
They're claiming that men can menstruate, which is a lie. It's not true. And Bill Maher goes, What? I seem to have missed this one. The audience bursts out laughing like, what are you talking about, Dennis? Surely you jest. And the story had been in the corporate mainstream press for 3 years at that point, and Bill Maher had no idea.
This is totally common, and it's more than common. It is the normal state. It is surprising when we meet people that actually have a significant understanding of reality, because the media has done such a good job of, first of all, casting any Republicans or conservatives as beyond the pale and absolutely you should not listen to any ideas that come from them, right? So any ideas presented by conservatives or anything they're automatically just laughed aside. You do that long enough, and then they don't hear any ideas that conflict, and they don't know what their opponents believe.
Yeah. I mean, you're convincing me, but I mean, we're talking about a situation where they're undermining the Democratic candidate.
Yeah.
Like they're that
That
in
oblivious.
the dark.
Yes.
So you look at these millionaires and billionaires who are giving money to colleges. These people love Israel. Many of them have family in Israel or themselves are dual citizens. I don't know how many actually are, but there are a good amount. And of the billionaires, again, not so sure of the billionaires, but I'm sure there are many millionaires who are. They're funding this totally oblivious. Then the protests emerge and they flip 180, and now they're like, I'm voting for Trump. It's like, wait, it took you this long? Let me pull up this story. This is interesting. This is from the Times of Israel. Biden's remark, very disappointing. Jews now hesitant to vote Democrat, says Israel's UN envoy. Speaking to Con Public Radio, he says, of course, any pressure on Israel is interpreted by our enemies as something that gives them hope. There are many Jewish Americans who voted for the president and for the Democratic Party, and now they are hesitant. And he is not wrong. There's this post right here, a response to Jonah Goldberg, who said, for what it's worth, I heard a lot of reliably anti-Trump people, I mean really, really anti-Trump people, who have had it with Biden tonight. Anecdotal, to be sure, but very telling in my circle.
Yep.
At Ted Frank, there's a guy on Twitter, director of litigation at Hamlin C. Law, fighting for free speech, and he actually gave himself it's called the Echoes, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is, for those unfamiliar, the three parentheses is something that Jewish people do. They're taking back.
Yeah.
There was, I guess, if someone can correct me if I'm wrong, anti-Semites would put three brackets around someone's name.
They would say them, and they would triple bracket
Them or
that
they,
meant Jews.
So he's basically saying, I'm Jewish. He said, I'm one. Protested and didn't vote for Trump in 2016 and turned down offers to join campaign and administration. Split ticket for Biden in 2020. Now ready to vote Trump in 2024 on Bill Barr grounds.
That's, look, man, he is just smashing stereotypes because he turned down a lot of money to not join the Trump campaign. Like that, those are really, really lucrative jobs. Sincerely.
And he has more. He says, and yesterday I told someone I wasn't going to vote for Trump. I was wrong. The Biden administration has to be stopped. And then he says, someone responded, didn't vote for Trump in 2016, voted Trump in 2020 based on a decent record, wanted Trump impeached and wasn't planning for 2024, now voting Trump in 2024. He says, left that out myself. I supported the 2021 impeachment, though I disagree with the Georgia and DDC prosecutions. Look, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to very anti-Israel, and they're going to be like, oh, see, now they're rallying behind Trump. Well, pick your poison, I guess. Do you want Joe Biden or do you want Donald Trump? A lot of these people that I get asked, what you're going to just, they ignored all of the bad things in this country. They ignored Black Lives Matter, the race riots. They ignored the cancel culture. And now we're supposed to defend them. And my response is always, yeah, of course. You know, like Michael Rappaport makes 1,000,001 anti-Trump videos and everyone makes fun of him for it. All it takes is for him to make one video of him being like, I was wrong, I'm voting for Trump. And I'm like, thank you, sir. There's a post, right? There was a DeSantis guy. I love the account Defiant L's. You ever see Defiant L's? Yeah. Shouted him out before. He shouted us out for shouting him out. But it's a great account, but he gets it wrong sometimes. Okay. And one of them was a guy who was a DeSantis supporter saying, F you, I will never vote for Trump. You deserve to lose, blah, blah, blah. And then like a few days later was, I was wrong. I have to vote for Donald Trump. We have to win. And I'm like, that's not an L.
No,
that is a win.
That's a win.
That's a huge win. So just we shouted this guy out when we saw this in the first place. A guy who was like so sick of the Trump supporters, wanted DeSantis to be the guy, but was willing to say Trump is still the right choice, and I'm going to swallow my pride and publicly announce that I was wrong about what I was saying. Trump has to win. For these people too, who are Democrats or never Trumpers, who are coming out now saying Israel is my issue, I say, welcome to the fight. I don't care if it's Israel. I don't care if it's BLM. I don't care if it's the border. I don't care if it's inflation. I don't care if it's that Biden sniffs kids. These are all good reasons not to vote for the guy.
Yep.
You say you don't want to vote for Joe Biden. I say, welcome to the party.
The thing that I've noticed a lot on Twitter in the past couple of weeks is a lot of people saying it's Carter 2, Carter 2.0. Jimmy Carter.
Hopefully not Buchanan too.
Yeah. But I think that's legitimate. Like the economic problems, we haven't had an economic situation in the United States this precarious since Carter. I think it's actually worse than it was in the 70s because of our debt, which is something that I've gone on and on about here multiple times. If you are seriously an America First person, the most important thing is the unfunded liabilities, because that will destroy the economy and destroy the country. So if you're America First, don't worry about whether, how much money is being sent to Israel, because those are literal pennies compared to the $1 trillion that we pay per year just to service the debt that we owe, and that is only going to increase. This will destroy our economy and it will destroy the country. That is the most America First position you can have, is to fix our unfunded liabilities, and everything else is secondary after that.
Well, what's your position on that? You Trump?
Yeah, I'm pro-Trump. I served on Catholic for Trump in the last election, so I traveled around and
cool.
I opened one of his things with a prayer, and so yeah, I was very much. But I personally,
Joe Biden's Catholic, right?
How much
In
time?
name only, I think.
How much time?
Yeah, he's a Catholic in name only.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I'm a little bit disillusioned about Trump. I haven't really talked about it on my channel, but I'm a little bit disillusioned. Obviously, I think Trump is the better vote than Biden for moral issues, and especially economic, as you're talking about. But I'm not so sure. These are interesting tweets, but I'm not so sure that these people are going to outnumber all the young people and all the Gen Z people who are so anti-Israel. I feel like that is a really growing, strong movement compared to some boomers saying, wait, Israel?
Money talks.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There are, I think it's about 30% of Gen Z is what they're saying is the ones who are participating in these protests, who have a really strong stance on the Israel-Hamas-Palestine conflict. And it's interesting because they're sort of divided, right? I referenced this a couple days ago, but I was listening to a New York Times podcast where they were interviewing young Gen Z activists. Most of them are environmental activists. And there were some who were like, yes, I would vote for Trump. I would, because it's a vote against Biden. It actively hurts him. But there was a portion that, some that said, I'm really angry, but I think ultimately I want a Democrat. And then there was a portion that said, no, I'm just not going to vote at all. And so it's interesting because part of it is, it's a question for Biden of both, keeping supporters that he has and also trying to keep the people who are leaning towards, well, maybe I just will sit this one out to get to the polls. And that's actually a very difficult hill to climb in politics. If someone's not engaged or someone who is like, I don't like either option, I'm just going to stay home, you can't really force them out the door to the ballot, to the polling place. Yeah. So it's interesting because he needs these personalities, these young progressives who are so passionate about the cause, who
activated.
And in another geopolitical climate, they would have been like, no one but Biden, Trump is awful. But now they're looking at him as the evil to their moral cause.
Yeah.
If this is the case, Trump wins. Because you're looking at older Democrats pro-Israel, younger Democrats anti-Israel, and Biden can't have both.
Right.
And if he loses even a tiny fraction of either, he can't beat Trump.
And this is only, the recent stuff. Even before October 7th, there was like a general kind of movement from people in the Black community, in the Hispanic community. People were moving away from Joe Biden. They were not feeling like he was paying attention to their needs. And I think the border had a lot to do with it.
And that's the RFK phenomenon too, is there was enough space in the room for him to come in and fill that vacuum. And I think just his popularity and his presence just is an indicator that Biden was, and just look at the man. I mean, he's just not competent despite all this other stuff. So RFK is definitely a sign that he doesn't have the momentum. And this right here is, like you said, it could be fatal for him.
I'd like to believe that, but there's a shadow campaign, Yeah,
I feel like there's some COVID thing. They're ready to hit the button on it.
It was ballot harvesting in 2020.
Yeah. What is it this time?
Right. And so the fact that we sit here and we're like, well, for this reason, Trump's going to win. It's like, yeah, but we're talking about winning the argument.
Yeah.
Not winning names on paper. You know what I mean?
I still think that it is mostly about collecting. Now that ballot harvesting is a thing and that it is illegal or that it is legal and something that the Democrats are absolutely going to be doing, it is now a situation where Republicans must. If they do not, they will lose. Without a question. So they must. It's not an option anymore.
I totally agree. I think Republicans do have to be active, either if it's ballot harvesting that or just registering voters, getting them to the polls, whatever it is. I think that's, if the midterms told us anything, it was sort of like we thought something great was about to happen. And then there was this stagnation among voters, in my opinion. But I do think it's interesting to return to my previous point that young Democrats tend to be the ones who are leading these get out the vote campaigns, right? They're the ones who are grassroots, doing the DNC's bidding. And if they are really this angry at Biden, even if it's not all of them, it hurts his campaign. It handicaps it in a way that I just don't think the Biden administration or the Biden campaign would have taken seriously, even as late as October or November of last year. We'll
jump to this next story. We have this from the Post Millennial. Biden's approval rating among 18 to 29-year-old voters has dropped 12 points in the last 2 months, according to CBS and YouGov. In February, Biden had 55%, but by April, it had dropped to 43%. Now, the question is, what does that leave for Donald Trump? Because just because he's at 43 doesn't mean Trump's doing well. I think they say a recent Harvard Youth poll said Trump had 37 to Biden's 45. So it still may be that Trump is underwater. However, Republicans typically don't rely heavily on younger voters. Democrats don't, and that's fair, but they certainly rely to a certain amount. And that means when the Democrats are going through their expected turnout, they say, okay, our bulk is going to be here, 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 and here, but we can safely bet on 7% of our votes coming from young people. The GOP is going to say the same thing, and they're like, we're going to get 3% from young people, because I think it's like 2-1 basically for Democrat to Republican. If the youth vote for Biden drops 12 points, just over 10%, they're looking at their numbers and they're saying, we've lost a full percentage point of our base. a full percentage point of our expected votes.
Yeah.
That's a
maybe
lead for Trump.
And in cities, too, which is key for Democrats.
Right. So it's not that we're sitting here saying Biden, that the youth vote is so important. It's that they're trying to track. It's like that cartoon back in the day where the cartoon animal Pluto or whatever, or no, not Pluto. Who's the stupid one who screams? Mickey's friend, Goofy.
Goofy. Okay.
He's like trying to plug the holes in the boat.
Yep.
Yes.
That's basically what Biden's campaign is doing right now with losing voters.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to just get their. I don't think it was actually Goofy, but somebody did. You know what I mean?
I believe
Well, I mean,
you.
it's like
A cartoon character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Putting his finger in the holes and then his toes and then other
Yeah.
fingers and his eye and then
little
his
boy
nose.
in the dike. Yeah.
No, I think it's interesting because maybe neither one is going to win the election just only on youth votes. But if you hemorrhage in every age group, if you hemorrhage in every socioeconomic class, on every educational level, all of these things that these polls track, at a certain point, you can't really make it up, right? Yeah. And again, I just don't think the Republican side of things, whether Trump is the perfect candidate or not, I don't think they have this fatal dividing issue the way that the Democrats do. I mean, the impact of the Israel conflict is really serious, and it is only continuing to escalate. I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was this report from The Guardian today about professors at the New School in New York, which is like, a small arts college, staging their own encampment. They're like, in support of students. Right. We are also against this issue. Professors are not young. They're typically older, right? This means there's also divide in another sector of Democrats that, again, Republicans just don't really have to overcome in the same way.
People vote usually for two reasons. Economics, like my pocketbook hurts, and their passion topic, whether it's pro-life or LGBT rights or any of these things. And Biden doesn't have a strong economic platform right now. So he's got to rely on the passion projects. Well, all those liberal leftists who would normally be like women's rights, LGBT, they kind of all in this pro-Palestinian camp. And so he's not going to get votes for economics. He's not in these passion project voters. He may not be getting them either. So this is looking bad.
The passion on the left, on the Democrat side, literally on the left, is literally communism. That's not right. Exaggeration. The passion, the people that are really passionate and emotional and invested emotionally, they believe in a revolution where the world is made better because the whole world abolishes capitalism. So that's where the passion is, which plays into something that we say around here a lot. It is the issue is never the issue. The issue is always the revolution. So the activists are always looking.
No, continue.
The activists are always looking for a way to facilitate the revolution, and the issues don't matter.
Do you know what Liberty Prime is?
It is from Fallout 4, right? Three. And
I'm sure people have sent you the videos of Liberty Prime.
I've seen some videos of Liberty Prime.
What is it?
At the end of Fallout 3, so the new show that's out on Amazon Prime that's like the biggest show in the country is Fallout, and it's based off a video game. In the third edition, you're in DC, and you can repair a gigantic robot that was made by the U.S. Army, and it's a 30-foot tall robot with missiles on it, and it was designed to fight communists. And so when you activate it, it starts marching down the street being like, communists will be stopped. And like, just
tell me it has Phil's voice. That would be the best thing ever.
But the reason I bring this up is conspiracy theory. I got a spoiler for you for those that haven't finished the Fallout series, but considering it's been out for as long as it has, there's spoilers. I was playing Fallout 4 today, which came out in like 2014, it's been like 10 years. And the point of the game, are you familiar with the series at all?
No.
It's after World War, after a nuclear world war. And in the original lore, the question is, China goes to war with the United States, the U.S. is anti-communist, China is communist, and then a nuclear war happens, and then you're in the aftermath of this. There are posters all over Fallout 4 when you're walking around, you're in Boston. Communism is coming, and it's like the scary thing, and it shows a skull on a bomb being dropped. Spoiler alerts. In the show, they've sort of changed the lore. Originally, they said in Fallout, we didn't know who dropped the bombs. They're like, they leave it up to you to decide. China invaded Alaska because they needed resources, and then someone fired a nuke. In the show, at the end, they say, actually, an American corporation dropped the bombs, faking it to ignite a war because they controlled all of the emergency vaults, and that would make them basically, in charge of the plan and give them supreme authority. Conspiracy theory is, as Phil's pointing out, that their passion is just communism. I was thinking for a second, like, yeah, well, but Fallout series is very anti-communist. Like, not anymore. They changed the lore, so now it's anti-corporate, and the communists were innocent of nuclear annihilation. That's kind of wild to think about. Huh?
That is wild.
Yeah.
So I'll just stress this again. Long-standing video game for several decades. Communists invade the United States, and someone fires the first nuke. TV show comes out 2024, and it's revealed the American corporation Vault Tech is actually the one who did it. So it's no longer the communists.
This is making me want to defend corporate America, which is
Absolutely.
very weird.
Absolutely. Corporate America is definitely bad, but corporate America is not as bad as like as a totalitarian government.
Ranks way above communism, for sure.
Well, I mean, above as in good?
Yes,
better
yes,
than yes.
better.
Yes. Corporate, like a corporate autocracy is night and day more preferable to a communist government, because a communist society is totalitarian. An authoritarian government, you can keep your head down and keep your mouth shut and mostly just go about your life, because all they want is to be in charge. If you follow the rules, you might be able to get away with it. If it's a totalitarian government, you must think the things that they want you to think. And the problem that we're seeing now with making people change the way they speak is an effort to make people change the way they think. That's what it is. That's why they say trans women are women, because they're trying to get the idea into people's heads that trans women are actually women. There's no distinction.
Which dystopian novel was it? 1984, Thought Crime?
1984, I thought
It was illegal to think the thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's the modern society shows parallels between a lot of them.
And as much as we talked about this a little bit the other day, as much as there's a lot of people on the left and the right trying to deny it, the anti-Semitism bill absolutely would make it a discriminatory offense under the 1964 Civil Rights Act to claim that Jews killed Jesus. Are you familiar with this?
Oh, yes.
So there's a lot of people coming out and saying, no, you're exaggerating. It's not illegal. That's not what they're saying. No, hold on. The anti-Semitism bill got passed, but we don't know if it'll make it through the Senate. Donald Trump in 2019 signed an executive order instructing federal agencies to operate under the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, which includes, as an example, statements like Jews killed Jesus. I'm not saying they did, but it's in the Bible they did. It's in the Bible numerous times, and it's not, and then people try to argue, no, it's in the Bible that they demanded of Pontius to do it. No, it's in the Bible that Pontius says, I will not have this man's blood on my hands. And then the people scream back to him, it will be on our hands and our children. That's in the Bible. So if you believe in the Bible and you preach the Bible and someone is in some way discriminated against, you have now committed a crime under the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which I believe is a civil violation. You get sued and you lose. So you're not going to go to jail for it. Anyone's allowed to go on a street corner and say the most vile things, like I'm not even talking about the Bible. I'm saying like, then go out and be racist, whatever. You can't go to jail for that. But if you kick someone out of a store while holding up a sign that says something overtly racist, they're going to sue you under Title VI, and they're going to win. Now, putting up a Bible passage, like the one of Pontius saying, I will not have this man's blood on my hands. Imagine you had that in your restaurant, denied service to a guy for some arbitrary reason, like he wasn't wearing shoes. And then he says, you know what? Well, I was Jewish, and he had a thing on the sign blaming Jews for killing Jesus. That's why they kicked him out. You will get sued. You will lose.
Yeah. I mean, in Texas, y'all know what Dairy Queen is?
Yep.
Oh,
Yes.
of course.
Okay. Every Dairy Queen in Texas where I live has a Bible on the counter. Do y'all have that?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. What?
And there's a highlighter, and it always says highlight your favorite verse. So while you're waiting to order, you go to the Bible, you open it up, and you highlight your favorite. It's just
This did not happen in New England when I was growing up.
This is Texas Dairy Queen. Dairy Queen. But I mean, technically, it might not be printed that you have Acts 10 or 2 Thessalonians or any of these verses, but having a Bible present in the store, someone could say that's anti-Semitic. And even look, it's opened up here and someone highlighted this, and I didn't get served. And
I didn't get served, and it could be
something stupid.
The ice cream maker wasn't working,
Right.
and then they say, no, You look at what happened in Colorado, the baker who gets sued over and over and over again. It's opening a door that should not be open. But I will also stress, oh boy, does that bill ban the Quran and the Hadith. Like, it's one thing for the Bible to be like, and Pontius said, I will not have the blood of this man in my hands. And they yelled back, it will be on the hands of us and our children. It's another thing in the Hadith where it says the hour will not come until the servants of Allah hunt down the Jews and the rocks and the trees will scream, O servant of Allah, there is a Jew hiding behind me, come kill him. That's crazy.
But that right there is not defined. An example from the New Testament is defined. So that just shows there's a double standard between Christians and Muslims in the United States of America. They always get the pass.
But to be fair,
we know why.
I don't think any organization needs to explain why the Hadith passage is anti-Semitic.
Right.
Like you don't need to list it. Literally, like it just wow, is it shock?
Yeah.
You know what's kind of crazy too is like. Is that a violation of YouTube's community guidelines to be like that passage in the Hadith, which is also found in the original chart of Hamas, is deeply anti-Semitic, and it is an outrageous thing to say, but it's a tenet of their faith. For those that follow Hadith, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm assuming they all do, don't they?
I don't know.
Well, I'll leave it at that then.
Right.
Well, let's get back to the politics of it because we're gonna have fun and give everybody a good laugh. Maybe you saw this clip from the other day. Ian Miles Chong has it. Joe Biden recalls how his theology professor was a guy named Riley last name.
A learned scholar.
A learned scholar.
Yes.
The story is really, really great.
I think I heard of that guy.
Yeah, let me play. Here we go.
My theology professor at the Catholic school I went to was a guy named Riley, last name. And he had been drafted by the Green Bay Packers.
So, this guy is Ron Burgundy, okay? Like, he will read whatever is on the prompter.
He
and
is.
I half blame the guy who's writing the copy for the prompter.
Yeah, why didn't he catch that?
And it's like, you know that last name was in brackets too. Because that's how it works. When someone's writing like a script or a pitch or a PR statement, the things that must be removed will be bracketed and highlighted in all caps. I'm just imagining Biden seeing the prompter and it says Riley and then bracket last name in all caps, and he just reads it.
He hits it.
But you know, in reality, it's very much his fault. Now apparently this gets better because my understanding is that people actually tried to find a theology professor with the name of Riley who was on the Packers. They can't find anybody. And so they're like, we don't know that this guy actually exists. So
that as soon as he said the Green Bay Packers thing, I was like, this guy isn't real. Joe Biden's just embellishing per usual.
Why can't he just say, I had a theology professor and be good with that? Why's he got to be Riley? Why's he got to be...
And if he knows his name, why can't he just say the last name?
That's right. Or the mistake is, it's Green Bay, Canada. His professor was Canadian, so you don't know her, you know.
He's not from here. He's from Canada.
Yeah. Well, Riley could be a girl's name too. And the Green Bay, Canada. What's a province? Newfoundland. There you go.
That's where my family's from.
Is there a Green Bay in Newfoundland? It was a woman to play on that team.
It's weird because I mean he says in that clip Catholic school, right? So. I mean, maybe there are professors at Catholic high schools, but it's all weird jumbled terminology.
Yeah. Professors usually in America, you know, it's restricted to college.
And he didn't go to a Catholic university, right?
Total win.
See, great job.
You saved them.
I can't believe how much you know about my homeland. This is great.
Green Bay is actually the name of two bays in Newfoundland and Labrador. And of all of, like, I know, what, Saskatchewan, is that another one?
That's another one. Yukon, Alberta.
Yeah.
Okay, so I actually know a handful. But
British Columbia.
The one that I guessed actually has a Green Bay. And see, you guys, stop being mean. Joe Biden, Riley last name, it's actually the name of the person.
It's a traditional
there's
Newfoundland
a lot of
last name.
People.
Yeah.
And
everyone I know is named something last name. It's very common in Newfoundland. No, I'm just kidding. It's completely false.
Maybe it's like Malcolm X, where he doesn't want to have the last name. He puts the X.
The scary thing about this is that people are going to vote for him.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any chance that they were like, you haven't told us this guy's last name, so we'll just prompt you to say the last name? And he was like, for sure. And then this guy is fake, so he didn't think. Like, I just don't find this president inspiring. You know, I get the young people are mad at him, but those that were like, but maybe he's okay. Like, do you look at him and think, this is the guy. He's going to bring us through this difficult economic time and into a place
he's
of
a puppet.
cultural cohesion.
He's a puppet. There's people behind all this.
Here's the big takeaway for this segment.
Oh, this is great.
This clip is absolutely fantastic. This is I don't know who this comedian is. Maybe you guys know, but let's play this clip.
Nick, what do you do for a living now? You work for the Biden administration. Is your job to wake them up, or what's your job? Hey! There's a war! Hey! Okay, what do you do for the Biden administration? What
That
a
was good.
shit show of a job you have. I can't believe you admitted that in front of all these people. You have the freedom to lie. You could have said you were a hooker and I would have been prouder of you. What do you do?
I travel to southern states.
This guy's good.
Yeah, I mean, this is all off the cuff.
You
of
go
him.
to the South and try to sell them on Biden? You're fucking retarded. What the fuck? What are you talking about? That's your fucking job? Is to go, hey, listen, I know you guys like Trump, but Biden, I mean, wow. Are you ready to be unemployed, or what's your
Yes.
Nick, what do you do for a living?
I want to play the beginning one more time.
You work for the Biden administration. Is your job to wake them up, or what's your job? Hey! There's a war!
That was the best part. Is your job to wake him up? Okay.
There's a war.
There's a war.
Yeah.
Aside from being very funny, what we're really seeing is that you're a comedian and you want to get laughs from the audience. You make fun of Joe Biden. For the longest time, SNL would not go near it. Even it's like 2 years into the Biden presidency and SNL's still making fun of Trump.
Yeah.
And it's like, guys, Trump was not even in the line. He disappeared.
Right.
He was just like chilling. He was just not in it. And we're still going for it. Now we're seeing people are having, this is it. This is all for all the people who said you're on the wrong side of history. Yeah, well, the right side of history apparently is making fun of Joe Biden. So
It is, number one, credit to this comedian, his timing on this. Assuming this guy's not a plant in the audience, he has a really great reaction, candidly. But I do think it is interesting that everyone in the audience also laughs as well. When he's like, I traveled to southern states. He can't even get through his job description before the comedian and everyone else is like, excuse me, you do what? It's funny. Look, comedy's healing America. That's all I know from this.
It's masterful. Is your job to wake him up? Yeah, because that's a real job. The truth is funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's legit someone who works for Biden who wakes him up.
And goes to the southern states. He really does. That's not a bit. He actually goes to the southern states and is like, hey, check out Biden.
I like
That's
his
amazing.
sales pitch here being like, so you go to the southern states and say, I know you like Trump, but Biden?
Right.
There's nothing else you can say. They're not going to sell Biden.
I can list a bunch of things I like that Trump did. In 2016, I didn't know the guy, and I didn't vote for him. In 2017, 18, I'm just like, And then by 2020, looking at all the stuff that was going on, looking at his track record on foreign policy, I'm like, I can actually discuss a bunch of things that Trump did that I liked. And it's only a small bit of things that I'm critical of. And most of the things that people are critical of outside of this are fake news. Joe Biden, man, I really want to try and name one good thing. And the best I can come up with is trying to get rid of ATM fees.
I think the CHIPS Act might be okay.
Yeah, okay.
I think that
Fair point.
I do think that it's super, super important to have the ability to not just manufacture chips for the military here in the U.S. because all of our edge is technology when it comes to the military, and the U.S. still does have an edge over every other country. And it's important to have the ability to do that, but also I think that it's important for the private sector to have access to the chips as well, to semiconductors as well. Just because the United States acknowledges that the government and the military need chips to continue working in case of economic issues globally doesn't mean that the rest of the country should be, SOL if there's problems with getting chips from Taiwan. There should be a thriving semiconductor industry in the United States that is capable of providing the U.S. with all the chips that it needs. And the only reason that we don't have that is because of regulation. Purely, 100%. Because all the chips are designed here. Like, or not all, I don't know for sure all, but a lot.
Majority, at least.
There's a significant number of very high-tech, very advanced chips that are designed here. I'm pretty sure NVIDIA designs here. I know Apple designs here. So you're talking about significant advanced technology that's designed here, and then we make it in Taiwan or make it somewhere else. We should be able to make these things at home. So the CHIPS Act, there you go.
Do you have anything you like about the Biden administration?
No,
Not one thing.
nothing.
Not one thing.
I try to be honest, reasonable, and fair. I mean, it would be silly and unreasonable to the average person if you're like, I really can't think of a single good thing a person does.
I mean, the chips things, that's a positive.
Well, so
I'll give him that.
He was trying to get rid of these overdraft fees. I don't know where we're at with that, but I got nothing bad to say about the idea that.
I mean, that puts what, $8 back in my pocket.
No, I mean, we're talking about a lot of people who are living paycheck to paycheck, and they
They're getting hit and hit and hit.
Poor people,
right.
poor people
Yeah, so
suffer a lot.
I had a friend
No,
who
that is predatory.
and so I'm like, okay, like I can give him that one, right?
Yeah.
But when you're at negative 97 and you add 5 points to it, it doesn't really move the needle a whole lot. You know what I mean? So it's like
Right.
I want to be reasonable, but a polished turd is still a turd.
You want to be able to acknowledge, like, if you're attacking a politician and everything they do all the time is always bad, then you are maybe not being critical enough. You need to be able to recognize when something is positive. But I think you're absolutely right. Overdraft fees, while for some people it may make a huge difference, overall, I mean, I watched a video on this today where the girl is like, yeah, I guess that's good, but like my grocery bill, I can't buy a house.
Inflation.
Like, it's not that it
Rates.
It's not that it's nothing. It's just not enough, even for voters who are sympathetic towards Biden. I think the reality, voters are looking at their wallet at the end of every month, and they know that things are not okay. And I think a lot of them, especially young voters, are old enough to remember that things were better under Trump, even if they weren't personally paying taxes or they weren't, looking to buy their own homes. The 24-year-old voters who had just become adults under Trump and then became more responsible adults under Biden, I can't imagine this is good for them.
Yeah, they're looking at interest rates, looking at the price of houses. They're talking about having children, and it's tough.
Yeah.
Let's jump to this next story from the Daily Caller. Leaked pitch reveals plot by former Vivek staffer to use MAGA influencers against Trump and for RFK. See, the question many are asking is, what is the new shadow campaign in 2024? In 2020, of course, it was ballot harvesting, universal mail-in voting, voter in the park, Zuckerbucks. We know all about that Time magazine article, which they referred to as a shadow campaign. And this story's emerged, which is really, really interesting. Daily Caller says a former communications staffer for Vivek Ramaswamy's 2024 presidential campaign has been trying to leverage pro-Trump and conservative figures to boost content in favor of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is running against President Donald Trump and Joe Biden for the White House. Zach Henry, who worked as the deputy communications director for Vivek Ramaswamy's campaign, has since started his own firm, Total Virality, and is taking money from the Kennedy campaign, according to FEC reports. RFK Jr.'s campaign paid Total Virality nearly $8,000 in March for influencer management. The pitch deck obtained by Daily Caller shows that Henry was touting his work with RFK alongside screenshots of prominent conservative Twitter users. Now, the question is, we don't know that any of the prominent Twitter users listed actually received any money. Many of them denied it. So right now there's, and I think y'all should be careful, but there are a lot of people on X highlighting these tweets from pro-Trump people who had praised RFK, and they're accusing them of getting paid to promote RFK Jr. Look, guys, I'll tell you this. If there's a shadow campaign, this is part of it, right? To get people on the right to attack each other. So many of these individuals who have been accused of being part of this campaign, because look, Total Virality did get money from RFK Jr.'s campaign, according to FEC, this report says. So who are the influencers that are in it that are promoting RFK Jr.? Well, many of these guys who are on this have said outright, no way. They did not receive any money for this. Ezra Levant of Rebel News had also appeared in the pitch deck, and he said, it's not true. I've never been hired or paid by the RFK Jr. campaign or anyone else. My tweets are whatever I find interesting. So basically what it sounds like has happened, they pulled Trump supporters who had said nice things about RFK in the past, are now trying to make it look like, or accidentally making it look like, they are being paid to spike Donald Trump. And now people on Twitter are fighting each other. Donald Trump personalities are now feuding with each other on the platform.
I think it's important to understand what a pitch deck is. So a pitch deck is, when you're trying to sell a film, a documentary, a book, it's basically a slideshow, and it kind of tells you the plot, the main characters, and this is like a business proposal. And oftentimes when you do a pitch deck for like a movie, you'll put in the ideal actor, like, okay, this character, and you might put Chris Pratt there. And that's just part of the pitch, like he'd be good, or this is the kind of person we want there. That doesn't mean that Chris Pratt agreed for the role. You're just giving the pitch in the pitch deck. And you see that all the time in pitch decks. So I think that's what happened here. They found some conservatives who are maybe favorable to RFK Jr.
This may be defamatory.
It's true.
So one of the pages of the pitch deck says RFK's team contracted Total Virality to help boost his State of the Union video. The original agreed upon goal was 4 million views. That would have made it the third highest viewed video ever posted by RFK on the platform. We delivered 6 million views in the first 24 hours, leveraging a custom list of influencers, many of whom were already in our network, as well as others we added specifically to this project. It is now RFK's most viewed video ever on X. And then they show all of the tweets that were promoting RFK Jr.'s video and praising it. It sounds outright like he's saying these people are part of his network and he's getting paid for the things that they posted. Now, here's the other thing. It may be that when Ezra and many others say they never were paid for this, it was still seeded to them in some way and they did it for free, perhaps maybe without realizing it.
Or with other benefits.
Right.
Doesn't always have to be money.
Yeah, because someone could be like, "Hey, you want to push this tweet out for me?" And they'll be like, "For sure," and that's it. And then they're leveraging it. Either way, it's
or we'll get you an interview with RFK. I mean, those are the same kind of things that happen too in media. Is you might not get paid, but you're going to get some inside access to something important.
You're thinking, "Oh, I'm building a positive relationship," but actually they're looking at it as a way to leverage you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And $8,000 is that how much? That's not much.
So you have the tier list here, per month. The Trendsetter, 2 million impressions per week for 7,900. Trailblazer, 4 million per week for 14,900, and the Titan, 24,900, 7 million per week.
I'm loving these names of these tiers.
You need these tiers too.
It's what they're promising doesn't even seem possible. Look, I've worked in marketing for digital networks before. The idea that you can guarantee an average amount of impressions per week is not how we ever really did anything. We would talk about expectations when the marketing campaigns that I've done in the past. You can say something like, you take a look at Google ads or Facebook ads, we know how many views we can get. This network has a capability of getting around this number or whatever. So I don't think it's completely out of the question. It's just done in a weird way. Like, they're basically just saying, if we post, we could probably get 7 million, but we will intentionally not post as well as, it doesn't sound like they're doing more for you. It sounds like they're saying they'll do less if you don't pay them enough. You know what I mean? I guess.
Yeah.
But either way, the question is, for the people that are named in this pitch deck and they didn't get paid and they're not involved, sue them.
Yeah. Who else is on there besides Ezra?
Let's see. Who else do they name here on this? They say, let's see. Scott Adams, Alex Jones, Ali London, Ian Miles Chong, Joey Manarino.
Oh, wow. So there's some big names.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A source close to Ramaswamy confirmed the former candidate and now Trump surrogate was pissed when he found out. In the press, Henry was working for RFK. Henry was terminated immediately from the small contract they had based on a conflict of interest. Man, that's crazy. Wild.
So Ramaswamy was still using this guy's company, or the thing was their contract was terminated and then the guy left and started this company?
That dude was apparently doing both.
Wow.
Working for Vivek and contracting with RFK, which is a serious conflict of interest
Big time.
for 2 different campaigns. That's insane. I wonder if this is just some dumb kid who made a pitch deck and then RFK threw some cash at him. I don't know. Look, $8,000 in 1 month for a service. That's not chump change. I mean, that's some serious contracting for a campaign. Not like, when if you're getting to a massive marketing campaign, that's not necessarily a lot of money. You could be spending millions on TV and stuff, but $8,000 in 1 month, 6-figure job for one guy.
Mm-hmm. I almost almost wonder too. I mean, I don't want to speculate about this specific person because I don't know anything about him, but I do feel like when Ramaswamy was on the campaign trail, he had sort of alternative third-party energy that people like. So it's not surprising to me that someone on his staff might go from, when the campaign ends to being like, well, now actually I'm really invested in seeing RFK get elected. Working with both of them at the same time is interesting, and to me seems like a conflict. Did you like Vivek Ramaswamy? What did you think of the primaries this year?
I think he said the right things. I was very cynical about him at first, and the more I heard him and watched his interviews, I think his interview with PBD really kind of brought me more towards him. And he's kind of saying all the Trump points, but in a like smart Indian dude way and not in the Trump way. And so I don't know. I'm still a little bit skeptical about him, and I think he's kind of like the nerd who wants to be accepted and knows the right thing. And he's extremely intelligent. That comes off very much. But like, just see him like, when he's like doing rapping Eminem and stuff, I'm just like, there's something just off about
Give
this.
you the ick?
Yeah. It's kind of, I don't know.
Do you have a VP guess for 2024 for
I
Trump?
don't. I really don't want it to be Tulsi. And I don't really know. And at this point, I don't even have any guesses on who it could be. Do you?
I don't know. It's
Rubio.
hard to say.
You really think so? Small hands? Isn't that what Trump called them? Tiny hands? Or
This is the thing.
What did he
Trump
call
has
them?
insulted so many
Little
people.
Rubio.
Was it Little?
Little Rubio, yeah.
But didn't he make fun of his hands?
No. They made
Trump
fun of
is-
his hands.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
Little Rubio.
rumor going around a bunch of politicos in the Beltway is Trump's already decided it's going to be Rubio.
Okay.
I don't know that that's true. That is not a rumor that's coming from anyone in the Trump campaign or anyone doing anything for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
It's just like there are people who are commentators and, there are people who work in marketing and stuff. And this rumor has been circulating.
Yeah.
I want to stress, if I knew someone in the Trump campaign who told me something, I'd say it. That being said, it's like a lot of people are saying the exact same thing. That is, Rubio went to a bunch of Bush donors and has got them on board with Trump because he's going to be the guy. And they're willing to give money to the Trump campaign if it's a Trump-Rubio campaign. DeSantis is now going to be on the campaign trail for Trump.
Yeah.
So the rumor is that Rubio has unified the neocons with the
Jeb Bush people.
The Jeb Bush people, the neocons, with the MAGA element, and there's a compromise. I have no idea if that's true or not, but I will say, I believe that if Trump does announce it's Rubio, Trump will win in 2024. And it's not because Rubio is a good candidate. It's because Trump cut a deal with the deep state.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But who knows? The rumor could be total bunk nonsense, and Trump could still pick Rubio for some legitimate reason that is unrelated to the rumor.
I'm gonna set the chat on fire right now. The deep state is better than communists. Even though the deep state
You're
has
just trying to
communists.
fight with people on the internet.
Are they different?
The thing is, there are communists in the deep state, in the entrenched bureaucracy. There are communists in the bureaucracy, but there are still normal people in there. And
In the
just
deep
like
state.
in the bureaucracy. So I don't when I'm talking about when I talk about the deep state, I'm talking about the bureaucracy that is permanent. So the people that stay in Washington, no matter who the administration is, no matter who the people that are elected are, the bureaucracy or the people that stay, that's the deep state. It's the way that I conceptualize it. It's not this nefarious secret thing. It's people that are middle management that just want to make sure that their kids can go to college and that they want to go ahead and that their pension is good and or that their retirement's good and their 401k is funded and blah blah blah, and the government does great, they've got great benefits and stuff, and those people are definitely real. There's no question about it. So
I think Trump's biggest challenge going into a potential next term is staffing. And I think the VP is one element of it. But I think his cabinet will make a really big difference, right? Like, I tend to be someone who immigration is, my make or break issue. I think we need a strong border, and that is the first step into reprioritizing the American citizens. And so, if I could pick any VP, it would be whoever is like going to hold everyone's feet to the fire on that issue. I know with all of the cases that are against him right now, people are saying, well, maybe Trump will be in jail or he'll be preoccupied. Maybe the VP will have to step up. And so they're maybe looking for someone who is a little more exactly a surrogate of his personality. But it's really hard to say. And I think that is one of the unusual fun parts about this campaign when Nikki Haley was before South Carolina. She made this speech where she had to be like, "I'm not dropping out," before
Right.
Super Tuesday, which is like not a great sign for your campaign.
Yeah.
But she said, you know, if I drop out, this will be the longest general election in our country's history. And I think that might actually be good if you're trying to refine what the administration would look like.
Sure.
Let's jump to this next story. This one's a good one. It's funny. Communists suing communists, from the Daily Mail. Black Lives Matter files bombshell lawsuit against progressive nonprofit that's funding anti-Israel campus protests over claim it withheld $33 million of donations. What? Okay. The Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation is suing the Tides Foundation for fraud. The group, which has managed hundreds of millions of dollars for left-wing groups since its creation in 1976, has allegedly withheld BLM donations. In a 285-page lawsuit filed in California Superior Court, LA County, on Monday, it was alleged Tides refused to honor its promises and continues to commandeer BLMGNF's donations. The lawsuit claims Tides spread an undisclosed amount of donations to an unaffiliated radical BLM breakaway group spearheaded by anti-police activist Melina Abdullah. Well, okay. Phil, when communists sue communists, what say you?
When communists sue communists, I get sad they both can't lose.
What's your ideal outcome right now?
I mean, I don't know that I have an ideal outcome. I mean,
They litigate each other into oblivion and they both cease to exist?
The more that they are tying each other up in court and wasting resources fighting each other, the better. You know?
Yeah, I mean, you see this under Stalin and Lenin. I mean, all the communists. I mean, demons in hell hate the other demons. They're not all friends. And I think that's the same in these communist regimes or in the deep state. They hate each other. There's envy. There's backbiting. There's no harmony.
That's sad about the demons, though, you know? Like, you'd think that...
They'd have a beer together and
they'd have a shared... hang out.
Yeah, no.
Straight up, no solace in hell.
Right?
Yeah.
No solace in hell.
Man, so...
Who is Tides? I'm not familiar with Tides.
It's one of the nonprofits, I suppose, that has provided some... according to the story, some funding and support and resources to these anti-Israel protesters. The thing is, like, wasn't the big story that BLM was fraud?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're suing Tides for fraud? How about we all just stop fighting and agree? You're both just so awful.
Yeah.
You're both fraud, okay?
Well, I think it's funny that there's a BLM breakoff.
Right.
That's even more BLM. Matters even more.
Actually, this is actually really funny. Black Lives Matter is suing the anti-Israel charity for funding a radical breakaway BLM group. What? How do you get more radical than Black Lives Matter already?
Yeah.
I fear to find out, you know?
I suppose if they were openly not like, because Black Lives Matter ostensibly is not openly revolutionary, as in they're not a militant, like armed.
Isn't it the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation where the woman said they were trained Marxists?
Yeah, she did. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that doesn't mean they're violent.
And then she bought a big house.
Yeah, I was gonna say, which one had all the houses?
I don't know.
That's exactly true. They're trained how to be Marxists. She got trained real good. Trained how to scoop up that money.
I know, right? I don't know if it was the same lady, though, but I think it was like the organizers of Black Lives Matter were like, we are trained Marxists.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then they bought a big mansion with donations. It's like, dude, look, you don't start a nonprofit unless you really want to be a nonprofit. Because...
But what if I want to make money and not have to pay taxes? How am I going to get rich without my nonprofit?
That's the crazy thing. I mean, it's a dirty business out there, man. People start nonprofits. You start a for-profit company, then a nonprofit company, and then at the end of the year, they dump all their profit into the nonprofit so they don't have to pay taxes on it. And it restricts what you can do with that money after the fact, but you can still do what you want with that money after the fact. So people play those dirty games. I think, yeah, I know. You know, your taxes, it's part of a modern monetary theory game. They're stealing your money either way, so everyone's trying to just take as much as they can for themselves. But you start a nonprofit and you go this route, you're going to get so much scrutiny. They're going to come after you. And then, come on. If Black Lives Matter started a for-profit selling T-shirts, support the cause. We're going to use it to build culture and stuff, and then bought a house, nobody would bat an eye.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, they get criticized. I mean, Hassan, the famous socialist, owns like a $5 million house. Doesn't he have like a $100,000 car too?
Yeah, I mean, he's
good for
rich.
Yeah. I'm curious about the refuse to honor its promises. I mean, will that hold up? If I promise my church, hey, I'm going to give you $1 million, and then I say later on, no, I'm not doing that. I mean, it's...
So they say Tides verbally assured the BLM activist network that the donations would be returned when the organization received tax-exempt status. I see.
Okay.
So they gave money, they put money raised in the hands of Tides because they did not have tax-exempt
I
status
see.
from the IRS, and they said to pay them back. The organization takes a percentage of all donations to manage a group's funds, according to the suit. When BLM GNF terminated the partnership with Tides, Tides refused to hand over the $33 million.
Oh, wow.
Tides is now being accused of mishandling the cash after claiming to have transferred $7.4 million from the collective fund back to BLM GNF on June 9th, 2022. Instead, it sent only a portion of the cash to an unaffiliated BLM chapter in Oklahoma. It is unclear why such a large amount would have been granted to a single city's BLM chapter.
Wow.
I'm just going to give you my thoughts and opinions on this, but fraud?
Yeah.
Corruption.
Definitely. This is and laundering. I mean,
Yeah.
This is a tremendous amount. These are portions. This is a tremendous amount of money.
Yeah. The likelihood, in my opinion, that these people are all just crooks is high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if a casino were to operate on those odds,
Yeah.
such a casino would go out of business in its first day.
Yep.
But do you think these kinds of reports deter people from donating
Nope.
to any of these things?
No.
Like the money, the donations are clearly being mismanaged. They're clearly being used for other things. You're
at
buying
the bottom,
houses.
You got George Soros and his son Alex Soros donated nearly $14 million.
So I remember when I used to do the nonprofit fundraising in Chicago, we were the guys on the streets that waved to you and come over here and talk to me. We're going to save the planet together. And there was these other guys on the street, and they had a different strategy. These other guys did street canvassing for hair products, and these guys made money. They made way more money than we did. So what they would do is, it's really fascinating. The nonprofits would give you a clipboard. We've all seen them. They're standing on the street corners, and you walk by and they go, hey, do you have a second? You want to talk? And the goal of these people is to get 2 people per day to sign up. At the time, $15 a month. Not a relatively hard thing to do, and it's sustainable at that rate. So me and my friends, you know, we meet these guys. They don't say, hi, how you doing? Do you have a minute to save the planet? What these guys do is they see a woman and they'll see, you know, like a Hannah Claire walking by, and they'll be like, hey, your hair looks really good. Where'd you get it done? And then women
Thanks, I grew it
instantly,
myself.
the women stop.
Yeah.
These guys were like, oh, dude, like 90% of women, like if they have the headphones in, they might tell you no. But the moment you say, wow, your hair looks great, where did you get it done? They stop. And then they go, oh, you know what? Like, hey, we work for the salon. Check it out. We've got this package for you. Look how much you save. And then they get 20% of the sale when the person brings the coupon in. And so we're talking to them. I'm like, you know what's really funny about you guys is you stop way more people and you make way more money. And I think it's obvious why. You're actually selling a product.
Yeah.
The nonprofits are selling an idea. See, when the chick hands over a credit card to you, you hand her something back. When people give us their credit card, we give them a smile and a wink, and then they feel good.
Yeah.
They get nothing.
That's
We
why-
literally sell them hopes and dreams.
I think that's why so many fundraisers rely on well, it's tax exempt. You can get a
Right.
credit on your taxes for it, but that's also abstract. That's
They're
too
not
far
tax
away.
exempt. The street canvassing stuff is almost never tax exempt.
That's true. It depends
Yeah.
on what year, but like when I was working at a school, right? We would be like,
Right.
well, you can donate to the school. It's tax exempt, even though it was a private school and you paid like $60,000 in tuition. But it's charitable.
The other thing though is like, how many people are actually like, I need that $20 write-off at the end of the year? No one's really that
It's a
concerned
feel.
about
You're
it.
feeling good.
Yeah, you're saying that with this receipt,
Right.
when you look at your credit card statement, you'll get a warm, fuzzy feeling about how you're morally superior to everybody else.
Well, I would pay for that. No, I'm just kidding.
People do pay for it. That's why they pay for it. And so that's what these nonprofits mostly do. That's what BLM is. So my point is, if you go to someone and say, like, you could go out on the street and just be like, hi, I'm from a corrupt organization. We're going to funnel your money into a trash can. We're going to party, buy mansions. Woohoo. But don't worry. We're going to tell everybody that we're saving the planet, and we're going to say you tried to help. They'll be like, deal.
It's actually better with them because for only $20 a month, you get to prove to the world that you're not a racist. And a lot of white people want to buy that ticket.
That's
Desperately,
what they're
because
selling.
of
You know
the
what I mean?
guilt.
It's like, well, I put the sign in my yard and I'm giving a bit of every month. And you have all these people who are like, I have now proved with money and documentation that I am not racist.
They're selling salvation in the new religion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you ever drive through a neighborhood and it's like one side will have like all the Trump flags and on the other one it's like coexist and you're like, I see you guys are at odds.
There's one over in Brunswick where they're next door neighbors and there's a pride flag next to a Trump flag. But let's talk about what really matters. What really matters as we move on to the end portion of the show. Red cows, life in the Dead Sea, 3 strange biblical events spark end of the world speculations. So this is a story from last October. They say you have the birth of the red cow in Israel, where there's actually a bunch of red cows in Israel right now. Life found in the Dead Sea. They say, contrary to expectations, life has been discovered in the sinkholes of the Dead Sea, an environment known for its extreme salinity that typically cannot sustain life. And also, a snake emerged from the Western Wall. So stories like this keep popping up. There was one recently about Nostradamus. They found another prediction, the world is ending. But I don't know, Dr. Marshall, is the world ending?
Well, we're moving towards the end, but our Lord Jesus Christ says, not the day or the hour. So, you can always play the game and be the prophet, but so far the odds are always against you. So there are, there's people talk about the signs of the times and all that. And the red cow thing is super popular right now. The red heifer. And a lot of people think it goes back to, when Moses went up on the mountain for the 10 Commandments, his brother Aaron, the high priest, made a golden cow and everybody worshiped it. So I think it has something kind of related to that story, but in reality, it goes back to Levitical law. And in order to consecrate the temple, you need a pure red heifer.
Let's start at the beginning. So we've heard that they've bred several and imported several red heifers. And it is speculated now that they may have a pure red heifer, meaning no blemishes. It is a pure red heifer, which you're saying they can use it to consecrate the ground. But what does that signify? Why would that be a sign of the end of days?
So the temple in Jerusalem is the epicenter of Old Testament religion. And Christ, when he comes to Jerusalem, he prophesies that within one generation, it will be torn down. So he died in 33 AD. Some people say 30. But the temple in Jerusalem was torn down in AD 70, the year 70, by the Romans. So Christians, for all of these centuries, have always said, well, there you go. Christ said within a generation, this will be torn down. In the Bible, a generation's 40 years. So within 37 to 40 years, it was torn down. And in my research, I wrote a book called The Antichrist and Apocalypse. All the early Christian church fathers, all of them, say that the rebuilding of the temple will be a sign of the apocalypse, because the Antichrist will want to re-inhabit a temple and declare himself as God in Jerusalem. So anytime you start to see the temple being rebuilt, that means you're getting close to the end time. So that tradition has been passed down for 2,000 years now. And now that you have a lot of people saying, hey, we've got a red heifer. And by the way, I'm a small-time cattle rancher. I have red heifers. I think they're unblemished. I've looked at them. They look pretty good. I got good.
So you are searching for the red heifer?
No, I'm not. I'm getting beef. I like steaks. I'm not sending these to Jerusalem.
But the real question is ribeye or filet?
I'm ribeye.
Ribeye?
100%.
Ribeye, yeah.
You? Let's take a vote.
Probably filet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Tenderloin.
I think ribeye.
Okay. That's a majority.
I go with
Everybody says ribeye.
Yeah.
Well, I say it's more flavorful, right?
Yeah. More fat.
So
the getting the perfect red heifer, a lot of the kind of dispensational evangelicals are want to get these red heifers, and it's a sign that you could begin the architectural project to rebuild the temple on the Temple of the Mount, where the Dome of the Rock is, and then you would initiate end times prophecy. So that's the hype around the red heifer.
So once they get it, finally, for the first time in thousands of years.
Again, I have a red heifer. I think it's kind of an overhyped thing, and there might be some rabbinical traditions about it can't have one black hair on. I don't know all that.
Yeah, I read it has to be perfect in every way, and they go over and they see one miscolored hair.
But I mean, when they dedicated the temple under Solomon, did they have genetically modified red heifer when they did it? I doubt it. They just had a really nice red heifer. Is my suspicion.
Unless they really did.
And unless they just had a whole amazing breeding program to get that one red heifer. But yeah, it's sort of it's the signal for a lot of people that we are entering the end times, because the temple will be built. It'll bring about the tribulation. The Antichrist will emerge, and the dominoes will fall. So that's the hype about the red heifer. And then the snake coming out of the wall. I mean, there's snakes in Jerusalem, but it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. There's a bunch of things that people keep pointing to. There was one, I think it was like a year or two ago, where people mentioned like Venus was passing through Virgo or something, and that was in Revelation or something like this. Do you know what that was about, or is that? Are there any other? I mean, not to say that you believe any of this stuff, but are there any other things that you've seen people mention where they're like, "This is it, it's happening"?
Yeah, I mean that's referring to Revelation chapters 12 and 13 about the woman, it's the virgin in the sky and the sun on her head. So they're looking for some of these constellations and astronomical lineups to be fulfillment of biblical events. But it's not like the Bible says when this happens, this means that. So there's a lot of interpretations. And I mean, my study in it, I try to take a very sober, traditional, historic understanding of what these Bible passages mean, instead of just reading a newspaper or flipping through your phone and then like looking at a Bible verse and like, see, it matches.
Right.
This is it.
I was watching this little mini doc on Revelation, and it said some believe that it was a description of things that had already happened.
Yeah, that's called the preterist point of view. So there's basically three views of the book of Revelation. There's preterist, which means it was past tense. There's futurist, which means it's in the future. I mean, there's a historicist, which means the book of Revelation is unfolding over the centuries, sort of like a slow motion thing. And I actually believe all three are true. I think there's multiple. I think you can believe in all of them. And the Catholic Church has historically kind of been both preterist and futurist. Like, it was fulfilled in the past, but it also points towards a future reality.
Is it historicist or what?
Historicist. Yeah, preterist, historicist, and futurist.
What is the historicist? I understand the futurist, like it's predictive, right?
Right.
And preterist is that it already happened. It's descriptive. What is the other one?
So you have like the 7 seals and the 7 trumpets and the 7 plagues. So they would see this as sort of unfolding over the centuries. So like, maybe the third seal happened in 400.
Past and future.
Yeah. So it's every century seals and trumpets and
I see.
plagues
it's like concurrent as time as we move
exactly.
through it.
Yeah. It's culminating through time.
And you think it's a little bit of everything?
The historicist is interesting, but I really think the first coming of Christ and the destruction of the temple in AD 70 is definitely an apocalyptic thing. It's the end of the Old Testament. And so that's very significant, and a lot of things in the book of Revelation seem to talk about that. But then that could point forward to a final culmination that's like what happened in the first century, but
interesting.
10x.
In which case, that could be the first world ending, and the next one could be, say, Israel, Hamas.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. I'm not so sure that this current crisis fulfills or is we're seeing things in the book of Revelation that relate to Israel and Hamas. But certainly I think in the book of Revelation, the Temple Mount, the temple, all of the Antichrist, all of those things are much more specific. And right now we don't see anything that really looks like that.
I mean, we've certainly had a handful of guests who are like, I can tell you who the Antichrist is.
Yeah. I don't think so.
We did one show where they said it was either Donald Trump or Elon Musk.
Well, all the church fathers they all say that the Antichrist will be Jewish.
Really?
Because he will claim to be the Messiah. And you don't really have a good claim on the Messiah if you're Scottish. Right? So the general consensus is the Antichrist, because he's the anti-Messiah. Antichrist means anti-Messiah.
But for Christians, that you wouldn't have to be Jewish, would you?
Well, in order to be the Messiah, to claim that you're the fulfillment of the Messiah, you would have to be.
Even in Christianity?
Yeah, because the Messiah has to be a child of Abraham.
But they could be Christian.
Yeah, but he's not genetic. Because all the prophecies in the Old Testament, the Messiah comes from Abraham through King David.
They have to be like ethnically Jewish.
Yeah.
They can't be a convert.
No.
So are you saying
but
Jared
they could be ethnically Jewish, but still raised Christian or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's actually one tradition that this is not in the Bible, but there's a tradition that the Antichrist will be born of a nun who was ethnically Jewish. So like a Catholic nun who was ethnically Jewish.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But no signs, nothing's going on.
Right now?
Yeah.
I not
Everybody wants it to be.
everybody.
That way, you know what I mean?
Everybody wants it, and
Kind of why? Like,
I think people
You know what I
want
mean? Like-
signs because they feel like if they can interpret the signs, they're able to get ahead of the future or what's coming.
What it
I
is
think people
is
are
when you're
bored.
lost and you don't know where you are. Before we had phones and all that, and you have like a Maps Go. I don't know if y'all remember Maps Goes, and you're just like
no,
looking.
we had MapQuest.
Yeah, you're looking at these things and you're like, where am I? And I think that's what people are doing. They're like, where are we? Because so much is awry politically, spiritually, morally, all these things. And so people are looking for that. And I honestly think, speaking as a Christian, it's really about, do you love Jesus Christ? Are you a Christian? What is your daily walk like? I mean, those are the much more important things than trying to discern the signs of the time or getting the perfect red heifer.
But I believe there are people who are actually trying to foment the end of times.
And that's what's weird. I think that's really strange that you would want to usher in.
Yeah, so that was part of the thing I was watching where they said, as you described it, the three views, they were like, some are saying it's predictive, some are saying it's past. And they were also pointing out that something it's instructive, that it's not telling you this is what happens when you do bad things. It's not telling you this is what happened when you do bad things. It's not telling you this is what will happen in the future.
Yeah.
Regardless, some believe it's saying, here's how you make the Messiah come. And so they're intentionally
Right.
trying to import genetically modified red heifers to be like,
Right.
these are the parameters.
This is what
that-
we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they can be so they can be raptured or something, or
Yeah, I mean, they want it. I mean, honestly, they want Jesus Christ to come back. So how do we make him come back? Get the red heifers.
Are you familiar? You familiar with the cargo cults?
No.
World War II, when the various factions are flying their planes over these islands in the I think it's the South Pacific, the uncontacted tribes that lived there were seeing these things flying around, and they were shocked and confused and terrified. So they built effigies of them, hoping it would make them come back. And they're called the cargo cults. When people would land there, they saw these people with these fake planes they built from straw and bamboo. And part of me, it feels it's kind of like that. Like, actually, let me start by asking you this question: Is there a stated reason as to why Jesus came to save mankind?
Yes.
Yes, because of sin.
But-
So St. Paul calls Christ the new Adam. So Adam, Eve, sin, and then there needs to be a redemption. There needs to be an atonement.
But was there a catalyst? Like, this is the moment, or was it, God decided?
So St. Paul says that Christ came in the fullness of time. So that he doesn't explain what that means, but there's an indication here that something had happened in the world. And a lot of people say, you have the Roman roads, you kind of have the world starting to get connected to one another so that you can have a spreading of the message over time.
The reason I bring it up is that the idea that someone would foment rapture or the coming of the Messiah sounds a lot like some dude building a bamboo plane and bowing before it, hoping the planes come back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, when the time comes, and that's just it.
I mean, it's going to be a horrible time. They say there'll be the most martyrs of all time. There'll be persecution. There'll be martyrdom. There'll be murders. I mean, it'll be plagues. It'll be very difficult. So,
Like Christians that talk about like seeing signs in America, etc. I imagine that like the description that I've heard in in Revelation and stuff, it sounds way more like massive war and like actual like civil war in America, kind
an
of like
apocalypse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, like an
and so
apocalypse.
like when people are like, man, you can tell it's coming. Look around here. I'm like, man, there's a lot of people going to work, dude. There's a lot of the lights are still on, man. So like,
But apocalypse means revelation, doesn't it?
Yeah, Revelation
Yeah.
means apocalypse. And apocalypse, apo means away or pulling in, and calypse is like a veil. So you're pulling a veil away. Oh. That's what it means.
What if the veil is removed and people can see through it? Like, everybody's on DMT all at once.
No,
Immediate no for me. I don't like this at all.
No, I think it's when you read the opening chapter of the book of Revelation, which is called Apocalypse in Greek, it talks about how John, who's the last living apostle, God pulls away basically the veil so that he can see what God sees, which is going to happen on earth. So he's seeing things from a he's looking down and he's seeing from the heaven point of view.
Wow.
What made you interested in this? Like, were you always a Catholic? How did you get to where you are now?
You know, I was raised nothing. I wasn't baptized. I didn't go to any churches. And when I was like 12 or 13, my dad got me all the autographs of the Texas Rangers. I was a huge baseball fan. And there was a player named Darryl Porter, and he wrote under his name ROM 10:9, which is a Bible verse. And I found out it was a Bible verse. It's Romans 10:9. And it reads, if you believe Jesus is Lord and confess, if you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you'll be saved. And I was like, oh, you can be saved? Just pray this Bible verse? I mean, I was like 12 or 13. And so then I started having a lot of questions about God and Jesus and spirituality. So I just, you know, all through high school and college was reading and studying. I actually became an Episcopalian priest.
Wow.
And then I got really involved in the pro-life movement, and it was like all Catholics all the time. And I was very impressed by that. And I just kind of read my way in and eventually became a Catholic in my late 20s.
Catholics are good with the surrounding in mass. They have tons of children, and they're always showing up to key events.
Yeah, I mean, I went to mass this morning. It's the Feast of the Ascension, and like there's just kids everywhere. You just hear kids cooing the whole time. And I think that's important because as a culture, I mean, you have to procreate. Like if you're going to continue a civilization, if you're going to continue what you're doing, there has to be children.
Yeah. I grew up Episcopalian, and I have gone back to I've moved out of state, but I've gone back to the church I grew up in, and you know, there's just no one there. I mean, when I was a kid, there were tons of kids, there was Sunday school and things like that. But I had a Catholic say to me once, you know, they talk about having like cry rooms or kids get taken out of mass, and they're like, "Well, crying church isn't a live church. Like that means that we're growing."
I always say, if your church ain't crying, it's dying.
So I want to read this real quick. This is the population of Christians, Christian population growth. Wikipedia says the Christian fertility rate has varied throughout history, blah, blah, blah. From 89 to 2009, the average world fertility rate decreased from 3.5 to 2.58, a fall of 0.92. We get it. The average weighted fertility rate for Christian nations decreased in the same period from 3.26 to 2.58. Let me see. The average weight for Muslims decreased as well. I'm trying to see what's the actual number. I guess they don't have it.
They don't have it. Well, it decreased to what?
2.58 as of 2009.
Yeah.
So, well, let's see.
Oh, there it goes, right. 2.7 right there.
Is that what it says? Christians are second with 2.7 behind.
And Muslims are at 3.1.
So Christians at 2.7. Liberals are at like 1.3, 1.2 or something, or less. I think it might be like 0.7 now.
Yeah.
We've gone over this quite a bit, but in the 2000s, liberals were having 1.45, and conservatives were having 2.03 on average. And so this means it's going to be 4-3 conservative to liberal. This trend continues.
Yeah.
That's just it.
It's over. I mean, my wife and I have 8 kids. 3 of them are voters now. And like,
you have like you have 4 times replacement rate.
I know.
Effectively.
So I mean, and the more kind of conservative Catholics you get, those. I mean, I have a friend who has 12 kids. I mean, there are some mega families out there.
Yep.
And I think as we move through the next 2 or 3 decades, you're going to see the more and more traditional Catholics, the more and more radical Muslims, maybe throw in some Mormons in there, but you know, procreation is procreation. It's hard to fight it.
I think the future, the future is for the United States likely going to be heavily Christian and conservative, and the math. The math is inevitable.
It is.
For the people who are saying, yeah, but they're indoctrinating kids, but that's being resisted.
Yes.
The liberals are not resisting the decline of fertility. Conservatives are. Conservatives are going down as well. But conservatives are resisting and doing shows, and they're saying have more kids. Liberals are saying don't have kids.
Right.
Liberals are going. There's a photo of a family, and you can see they have like 8 kids, and it goes all the kids are standing next to each other, and then the mom's holding a baby, or I think the mom's pregnant.
Yep.
And the comments from the liberals are like, "What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Stop! Why are you doing this?" Meanwhile, conservatives are like, more babies.
And I think the biggest deterrent right now for young conservatives is the economy, which again, I think would redouble their interest in Trump, even if they're on the fence. Yeah. I do have to say, Seamus from Freedom Tunes just texted me. And he said, can't believe you replaced me with another Catholic. I go and you swap a brother out.
So he's not going to steal spoons.
Look, if you want to be the resident Catholic, you have to be present.
I just want to point out, like when Styx, Saxon and Hammer came, He gave us spoons.
Sticks was such a fun guest. So
Yeah, you know.
Sticks is great. I love
Because he
his,
knows about that
bits.
Seamus guy. We're going to go to Super Chats. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, head over to timcast.com, click join us to become a member, to hang out for our members-only call-in show, which is Monday through Thursday at 10 p.m. on timcast.com. Right when we wrap this show, we'll be live at timcast.com with another segment and calls from you, our members. And if you'd like to call in to talk to us and our guests, you got to become a member. $10 a month. Takes 6 months before you can get upgraded to the chat room. But if you sign up at $25 a month, you jump the line. We were trying to figure out how to screen out the weirdos and the grifters, scammers, and people trying to waste our time and jam us up. So we did a double of, okay, how about time or money? So it's not, you know, if it's too much, then you can just sign up and then wait 6 months. Or if you're like, no, I can, you know, join now. We just had to have some screening process. But let's read. We got Clint Torres. He's back. He says, howdy, people.
Go to the gym, Clint.
Howdy, Clint. Token black guy. Unfortunately, second place with howdy, people. He's trying. He's trying. Let's go. We've got a lot of people who are asking for help in the Super Chats because I think it was like 2 days I gave people. So we routinely get these Super Chats where people are like, hey, you know, I'm hurting. Please go to Give, Send, Go. I try to read them sometimes. And I understand a lot of people are like, Tim, you're being scammed. Like, these aren't real.
That's what I think when I see you do it. I'm like, I can't believe he's doing this.
But what if he's not?
I know.
I don't know.
Sorry
You know,
to be
the
like
one-
too optimist faith
I
in
guess
humanity right now.
the sin is on them.
But
Yeah.
And 90% of it is it's like someone's like, my dog is dying. Please help. And I'm like, I must help. You know, because like we spent a stupid amount of money to try and save Mr. Bocus. He got his pro model skateboard right behind me. Mr. Bocus was our cat. He had underdeveloped kidneys. And so once he became an adult, his kidneys were working at like 2 to 3 times the rate because they were too small. And so he died at 5.5. We tried giving him stem cells, but his kidneys were just too small for an adult body. It was like 10 grand to try and get him all of this treatment, like a ridiculous treatment to save a cat. So, you know, when people are chatting and they're saying they've got like a sick pet or whatever, I couldn't imagine. I mean, actually, I can't imagine because I've had many dogs who have died. But for where I am right now, knowing that we did everything we could to save Mr. Bocus, this poor little cat, and there are people out there who I've already decided I'm going to give someone money because they said their dog is only 2 years old and suffering from some issue, and I'm like, man, if one of our dogs, like even my brother's dogs or whatever, my brother's dog got hurt, paid for the surgery, no questions asked, and it was expensive. He had like a slip disc or something. If I can't imagine how painful it must be if, you know, you have a good, nice, loyal dog, not, you know, young, and then they say your dog's going to die unless you have 10 grand. And you're like, I don't have $10,000. And then the whole world expects you to just say, who cares, it's a dog.
Right.
I remember there was one well-known story in dog law. 2 farmers were fighting. The dog was, you know, running around in the yard. One guy shot and killed the dog, pissed off at the neighbor. The neighbor lost it and called cops, went to court, and the court awarded him $200 for killing his dog. And they said it was destruction of property. It's like an old story. I read about it, and I was just like, destruction of property? I understand a dog is not a human being,
Right.
but it's still.
We didn't hit your fence. Like,
I know, yeah. So, you know, I know that they're, you know, and it is kind of, I also have to admit, it's kind of messed up when someone's like, I'm about to be homeless, please help. And I'm like, but this person's dog is dying. You know, I don't know.
You're doing
you know.
the best you can.
All right, let's see. Tacti Platey says, Tim, would you kindly say some good things about the film Gattaca without spoiling it? I'm trying to convince a fellow Timcast member, Fear Melts Bray, to watch it. Also, please give her back a follow. Gattaca's great.
Gattaca is like one of the few movies I've seen. I think it's cool.
It's a scary movie. Like, it's not a horror movie. It's just like the prospect of this future. Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, though. Let's see. What is this? Clint says, Tim, I found myself dating a rather rotund lady. She's eating me out of house and home, and now it's between her sustenance and my whiskey. Please help. Anything will be appreciated. Apparently, YouTube doesn't like my name without a space between it. Well, unfortunately for you, maybe it's the whiskey. Yeah, someone super chatted asking to help save their dog, and so we'll get to that super chat and we'll shout them out. And maybe we can help save a dog. It's brutal, man. you know, I will do my part. You know, it would be, I love the idea that, you know, you've got 8,000 people watching, and if they each gave $1 to someone, they can save them from something or whatever. And it's like, it's just $1 for you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But for this one family, you've saved their life, you saved their dog. And so that's like a cool idea, you know. Not that everyone can do it. Maybe you need your $1 for your cheeseburgers. That's all. That's, you know, you do your thing. All right. Evan Carter says, send good vibes to my sister struggling with a mystery autoimmune disease and a medical system that is sending her in circles, leaving her withering in bed. Anything you can send helps. At Evan Carter 37. Good luck, sir. See, that's what I was saying. It's like, oh man, I want to help someone's dog, and this person's got a human family member. That's what's rough about it. Once again, says bank was threatening to repo truck and equip needed for livelihood, not asking for money. Just want to give thanks to God for the provision he sent. Hey, see, there you go. There you go. All right. What have we here?
It's interesting having you read these because it makes me think about, you know, charitable giving communities. We talk a lot about how people are not as engaged in their communities. And I think the Timcast, and especially like the members community, is really interesting because they're always doing something. They're really busy. They know a lot of what's going on in each other's lives. And I think that is something people are missing. Not that you shouldn't, you know, I understand why you're asking Tim for money, but also like, wouldn't it be cool if we knew our neighbors and knew what was going on with them and could say like, this is how I'm going to help you. And I feel like we just don't have enough of that in this country right now.
Splug the Goblin says, hey, Tim and gang, first time Super Chatter, long time fan. I came bearing news from the front lines of the culture war. A new general has popped up by the name of Guard Bro. He made a pro-America Dungeons and Dragons called the Veil Riders. Check it out. We really got to do this D&D session with, maybe we could have Ian do this. We want to do a D&D session that's based on modern politics. It's what they did in 2020 when the Democrats ran their war games of the 2020 election. And so the idea would be to get, I don't know, like 6 people. What's a good how many players is good for D&D? Does anybody know?
6 with a DM. So there's 7 total, but 6
And then
players.
we do 3 Democrat, 3 Republican. And then your goal as a player in this show is to the best of your abilities, represent an individual within this faction. So if you're Donald Trump, what would Donald Trump do? Be real. Like, we're not being silly. And then actually war game out like this D&D style session of the 2024 election. I think we definitely got to do that. Got to get Ian to do that.
Do you play Dungeons and Dragons? Or?
I've never played.
But you should learn. You can do this game.
War games.
What does it say? The Womble? Sitting back listening to Tim while making real leather armor for my chickens. I want some.
Armor for the chickens.
Is that cockfighting kind of thing?
Well, no, because they peck each other. So,
okay.
Yeah. So we have some armor for our chickens. They have back saddles for when the roosters jump on their backs and do the business.
Yep.
But here's what I want to do. Can we make armor for chickens that will increase their flight time? So chickens are actually pretty good at jumping.
Yep.
And, you know, a lot of people who don't have chickens don't know this. They'll be out in the country and they'll see a rooster up in the tree like 12 feet up and they'll be like, what? Like, it's like, yeah, they're
birds.
Yeah, they're birds. They just don't have sustained flight.
Yeah, like a turkey.
Turkeys do fly.
Not very far.
But they do fly
more than a chicken.
Yeah. Like you'll see turkeys walking around and they'll fly away and then start to go, but they actually can take off and then go for a bit. Turkeys sleep in trees.
Yep.
I'm wondering if we can build a system, maybe using a light carbon fiber, where you can extend the flight time of a chicken.
All I can picture is like a chicken with basically a hang gliding suit on it.
So I suppose the issue is weight to glide.
I was going to say, you probably just want them to lose weight.
Put all these chickens on a diet.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm saying flight time, not that they can actually fly.
Right.
But because I know that you cut the wings, their flight time is gone. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if you extended it with an ultralight material that could still displace air, you throw them, they could just get a better glide and, you know. What I really wanted to make and was never able to was a wingsuit for Mr. Bocus, so that when he jumps, putting his feet out causes the glide to extend to the sides and back, so he could actually glide. That'd be the coolest thing ever for a cat. Like it's folded up like a backpack, And when it jumps, the wings come out and the tail fin comes out, and then the cat glides. Someone's got to make that, right?
I
know
feel
it's
like
possible.
someone on Etsy sells this product. Like somebody is like, I too share this dream. Do you have any other animals?
to share this dream.
Look,
We
you
have
want your cat to
Cats
fly, and I
flying
respect
around.
it.
The small woodland creatures in fear everywhere of flying cats.
Can you imagine a squirrel that's like, can't go into that house? That cat flies. Nothing is safe there. Do you have you have cattle?
We have
Do you
two
have other?
dogs. We have a bunch of cows, and we have bees now. Just got bees.
That's
the
Beekeeping.
coolest thing.
It's so cool.
I like bees. Bees are nice.
Bees are
Wasps are bad.
Yeah, bees are magical.
My step-grandmother who's in the Dallas area is a beekeeper, and
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
really,
really?
yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I've just been reading bee books.
All right. Sherman Panzer says, impeach Biden. About damn time. Isn't it funny how unless it's money, no one talks about the Ukraine war anymore? Almost like the previous thing matters little despite being a far worse war. These people are incompetent beyond measure. Glory USA. Agreed. Incompetent beyond measure. All right. Let's grab some more super chats. What's this? Let's see. We'll find a good one. It's just that YouTube is lagging for whatever reason. I don't know what to do about it.
Look, I'll filibuster if you need me to.
Yeah.
I feel like that's why I'm here.
I when I press the scroll wheel, it takes like 3 seconds before the screen actually moves. So I'm like, I will pet her.
What kind of dogs do you have? Do you have farm dogs or do you have family
These
dogs?
are family. They're half Cavalier, King Charles, and half Poodle. So they're Cavapoodle.
Very
All right.
fancy for a cattle ranch.
Yes, they're cute.
Shador says, Tim, stop being afraid of Nick, you coward. Set up a culture war and bring Nick Rekieta on to talk freedom and liberty.
Nick Rekieta is great.
You've convinced me. Well, Nick Rekieta. Oh, geez, I guess we'll have him on the show. He can come on whenever he wants.
I expect Nick Offerman to be here one of these days. You keep saying this.
Sincerely, like Nick Rekieta is hilarious, though. He's great. Like you should watch his show. Watch his show. He's funny.
But I also have no problem saying this too. Like we tried to organize a Nick Fuentes show. It has to be a debate, otherwise you get banned. Nick knows that. That's why I'm like, I don't understand why they're mad. I guess it's like if I suppose if I think the Krasenstein said they debate him. I was like, well, I guess. You know, I thought they wanted to have like this like top level, high level debate with like a professor, a theologian, an academic, you know, or whatever. But if they want to go with the Krasensteins, then we'll work on it. We'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. I don't know that. I think it would be hilarious, you know, but we'll see what happens.
Krasensteins are funny.
Yeah, are they Jewish?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but they said they would debate it. I'm just like, I guess, you know.
I'm sure they get called Jewish.
That's just the thing
on the
too. It's
internet.
like that's the other thing about it. It's like, you know, we wanted to do a big show with a big debate. We don't want to just find whoever to do a show just to have you on. There's a lot of people who aren't on the show. Let's grab some more super chats as I try to scroll on YouTube and it resists and does not want to. Michael A says, Tim, you said Zoomers want Israel wiped off the map. This is the first time I hear of this. Is there any proof? I thought it was just them wanting Israel to stop killing civilians. Yes, it was from the river to the sea and from the water to the water. If you literally ask them, and it's just a weird deflection. They don't think Israel is a real place. They think it's a colony that was created and displaced the population that was there. That's it.
I heard this.
It's all Franz Fanon. It's anti-colonialism, and that's the whole deal. It's the Israelis are considered a colonial power by the left. That's all there is to it. And it's all anti-colonialism, and that's why the violence is they make apologies for it, because in Franz Fanon's book, The Wretched of the Earth, it says that the process of decolonization is inherently violent. So if you have anybody talking about decolonization, they're talking about violence. And you see people talking about that on Twitter and being surprised that there are people upset about October 7th.
Krasensteins aren't going to do it.
Boo.
This is the thing. It's like, dude, nobody wanted to do it. And so I saw one of the Krasensteins comment saying like, I'll do it. And apparently it's like, no, they actually said they can't do it. It's like, oh, okay.
I
got a message right when I said it. That's why.
Oh, okay.
They were like, no, correction. They won't do it. I'm like, oh.
There was a professor who was interviewed this week, or at least I listened to it this week, and she was arrested on Dartmouth's campus, and she also used to be the head of Jewish studies at Dartmouth. And she was saying, this From the River to the Sea line came up, and she said, well, these students are fighting for the thing that they see as the genocide of their generation. They see it as their moral obligation to step in. And they don't see From the River to the Sea as meaning violence. They just mean, they believe that it means freedom should be everywhere, which is interesting because it means that someone is saying the same words and someone else is saying but that's not what it means. Apparently we don't even speak the common language anymore.
Apparently the Krasensteins publicly stated we have to pay them to bring them to come do it.
Boo.
Okay. I mean, we cover everyone's travel and accommodation, even international.
You're not worth being paid. Sorry.
Well, it's just we've never paid a guest to be on the show.
Yeah.
And we've also had this is wild. We've had people offer us money to be on the show, and we say no, never allowed. And we've had people offer us sponsorships that were, yeah, sure, we love taking sponsorships. We do them very rarely. Now we mostly support, just do Cast Brew. What do you want us to shout out? And they say, just at some point in the show, talk about a subject I want you to talk about. And we go, nope, have a nice day. That's not a sponsorship.
So creepy.
Yep.
Wow.
People who are like, I have an issue that I want people to know about, and I want you to just read the story. And I'm like, I will not do an undisclosed advertorial. Not going to happen. Yeah. But that's not, I mean, I don't fault people for asking that. They don't know. I just say that's beyond our standards. We won't do that. Let's get some more super chats.
Did you get any RFK Jr. ones ever?
Requests?
Just kidding.
We actually,
Back to the story.
I think we are having RFK Jr. on soon. We had a hard time booking him.
Yeah.
And I was very critical of him, but I'm glad to see that they said that they would come on the show because he was doing very friendly press only for a while, But well, okay, I'm looking forward to it. There's things we like about him, there's things we don't like about him.
Do you think that it's a sign that he's starting to sort of see that time's running out and you have to kind of take on the harder interviews to really get to an audience that you haven't reached yet?
Maybe. Or he is the shadow campaign, and now in the 11th hour, he's flipping to go after people who may be partial towards Trump.
Yeah.
They cut 2% of the independent vote from Trump. That can swing it for Biden. He could be the spoiler. So I don't see RFK Jr. having a strong enough policy platform right now, especially with the few things he's flip-flopped on, pertaining to guns and child sex change surgery. I can't identify why he would be a better candidate than Trump. But I'll talk to him about it. Absolutely. Absolutely. For those that are wondering, advertorial is what it's called when news organizations run a news article that's paid. And so there was a law that was passed that made it so they legally had to disclose they were doing it. And so they put in teeny tiny letters up at the top, right, advertorial under the title. So you'll see an article that'll say something like, shocking news about your favorite shampoo. What? This shampoo actually is better. And it would name the brands. And that's targeting a product at women. They think they're reading a news article, but the news organization was paid by the company to run a news story. And they were like, what's wrong with doing that? It's the same thing as any commercial. And it's like, people think they're getting honest journalism, not paid content. And so when you pay them to write about it, you're only going to write good things. Advertorial, scammy. I hate them. It's disgusting.
Do you take sponsorships on your show? How do you
Not
handle
many,
it?
but yeah.
And how do you decide what to take? What's your business model?
I really like if it's something I use, or something that's I'm taking on more now. But yeah, I've turned down more than I take.
Yeah.
I just don't want to have something random that's
Wow. I really cannot look at super chats. It's so annoying. I have no idea
what. Sludgy.
Yeah, it's like it's taking 4 seconds to scroll. I'm like, I can't even scroll.
It was happening on PCC as well.
Let's see.
YouTube
Kame
thing.
says, just want to shout out Phil for that killer single Divine. I'm a huge fan of yours, and I really want to say that this is a true callback to OG metalcore. Shout out to Jason and Mike, true gods.
Cheers. Thank you very much, man.
It's a great song.
Thank you, Tim.
I was
appreciate it.
skating to it. I was like, I was trying to get a trick. I was trying to do a frontside nose grind, frontside 360 shove it out, and I was like, I need something heavy because my playlist is playing, and then it plays Total Eclipse of the Heart or something, and I'm like, well, yeah, but not now, and so I had to put on Divine, and I needed that screaming and and then I
Got that energy, man.
almost landed it. I stuck 3 of them, and I didn't get it though.
It's a speeding violation inspiration. People be getting the tickets listening to Divine.
Is that what you said? You walked in the studio, you're like, speeding ticket song, let's go.
That's what it is, yeah.
That's so
it really
funny.
is.
Man, this is so brutal. Trying to maybe this will help. I have no idea why the browser is not working.
It's YouTube.
It is YouTube. It's not the browser.
It's BooTube.
Baker says, Tim, our sweet 2-year-old pup Maggie has been hospitalized with vet bills that are absolutely crushing. Please share. Uh-oh. Where'd it go? Did it just disappear?
Is YouTube anti-dog? Is that
this
what's
is so
happening right
wild.
now?
I mean, this is what's happening on PCC as well.
It's got to be YouTube. Please share our Give Send Go /GCE98. So let me see if I have this. I just pulled up. I am going to be sending $2,000 to help you with your dog's medical bills.
Yay!
And on Give Send Go, we like Give Send Go. We don't like GoFundMe. We like Give Send Go. They're good. Some say the best. And let's do this. And I know there are a lot of people in the chat who have things that they really need help with. But I want to see if we can save a dog. Let's see if this works. Turn on. No, what's going on? Give. There we go. I know it's not everything you need, but it is enough. Well, it's maybe not enough, but hopefully it's helpful enough. And other people, it's something is wrong with Maggie's liver on Give Send Go. Maybe we can come together and help save a dog. Maybe. The other guy up there in the super chat had a sister who was ill, and maybe that's more important, but All right. Purple says Fox News talking points. Was that in reference to me saying the Rubio thing? Because is that on Fox News? Because I did not hear this from Fox News.
Sometimes I feel like when it's on like a major outlet like that, it's like, oh, so you guys want it to be Rubio. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This I heard from people who work in marketing stuff and in the Beltway. So you've got I don't want to say too much, but nobody from Trump's inner circle, but people who work on the Hill and in and around are like, the rumor going around is that it's Rubio. And I think it may be because Rubio's doing something. They see Rubio doing something. So it could be nonsense.
I'm just glad this whole it has to be a woman thing has ended.
Me too. Thank you for saying that as a woman.
No, of course.
I'm so sick of, we got to get the woman vote, put up a token woman. I'm so sick of that.
I think that people don't understand that women aren't motivated to vote for other women the way that liberal women are motivated to vote for other women. Like you're misreading your demographic here, team.
Yeah, what Trump really should do is just get some like random dude who's chiseled 6'4" with like a nice, like light beard, fine suit, charming bachelor type,
See, yeah. I mean, this is one of the reasons
like Barron.
Well, Barron's a little young.
That's true.
No,
yeah. Barron in 10 years.
I think this is why J.D. Vance is like a viable candidate. It's not necessarily like, I don't know about the male model thing, but I do think someone with a young family would actually this is something that DeSantis had going for him. He's a young Republican. He has family. It represents the future, and I think women would be more likely
Vivek
to.
was definitely pushing that too.
You misunderstand. I'm saying he needs a hunk, so that when the VP
only
goes
hunk VPs for Tim.
Well, for the women, right? Because I'm telling you, Trump comes out and he says something like, "You're gonna win. We're gonna be the best," and the women are like, "Yeah, I don't care." But then all of a sudden, this chiseled surfer dude walks out in a fine suit, like maybe like a Henry Cavill type. And he puts his hand on Trump's shoulder and says, "That's right, ladies, and I'll be there too." And he winks at him, and then there's like, "Oh," and they all swoon.
I think that's more the leftist vote, don't you?
I get what you're saying, but I really think it would be young father, like someone with a young family.
Yeah, I think that the leftist vote kind of has the reputation of single and living with cats and all that, and it's kind of the idea that Gavin Newsom's kind of my husband; he provides for me. That's I think. Maybe a little bit more on the left way of thinking. Like he's
like a Ken.
Like in Texas, we have what's his name? Gosh darn it.
Purple says, Tim, you just gave a random dude $1,000 last episode. That was a guy who said he was struggling to pay his rent. I gave a random guy $10. A guy was like, I think I want to get a piece of pizza, and I was like, that's funny. You can have $10. Yeah, there were two people who were like, I'm having a hard time paying my rent, and I was like, let's pay your rent. Just felt like doing it. Can't do it every single day. We do well, we don't do that well. But, maybe what we could do is, like, we do our own kind of Give, Send, Go where we choose a cause every day or something. I don't know. Because people are like, Tim, you're getting spammed with people who are just asking for money now. And it's like, yeah, and people are asking for money for things they shouldn't be asking money for. Like, You know, someone's like, I want to buy booze. It's like, well, come on, man. Someone's dog's dying.
Well, the nice thing about
Someone's
the Give, Send,
sister
Go
is sick.
links too is that like other people in the chat can help them out. Whereas if like they're just
Right.
sending you their personal Venmo, I feel like fewer people would maybe partake in that.
Kevin Malone says, what does everyone think of Larry Elder for VP? He could potentially bring votes from both California and black voters. He won't overshadow Trump, and because he's a talk show host, he's plugged into the issues and can articulate the points. I don't think winning the argument matters. Trump could pick a ham sandwich as VP. It would be hilarious, and all he has to worry about is ballot harvesting.
Yep.
Trump ham sandwich
Well, look,
2024.
Larry Elder told me that I could be his press secretary. So, you know, I feel like I can't comment on this without bias. I'm sure he wasn't serious about that. Were you talking about Beto earlier, by the way?
Yes, Beto.
Okay.
Yes, I think liberal Texas women are like, he's my husband, like he's my boyfriend, you know.
That is so
Napoleon Dynamite?
gross.
From what?
Beto, everyone called Beto Napoleon Dynamite. Gosh, why don't you vote for me? You're so stupid.
And to be fair, Beto also has a young family,
That was
from
like
what I
20
know.
years ago.
I don't think his kids are that old.
Yeah.
It's just sort of the like semi-soy version of what like
Yes.
maybe think
Yes.
people think women
Oh,
want.
yo, how cringe was it when he tried to ride a skateboard?
Oh,
He's like, I skateboard. It's like, no, you don't.
He was rough.
like,
it was like Vivek rapping.
yeah, don't.
The rapping was not good.
No, it was not good.
However, I'm excited for Riley Moore to win in November and go to Congress because he will be the only member of Congress who can kickflip to fakie on a bank.
Yeah.
Kickflip to fakie on a bank. That's what I said for those that don't speak skateboarder.
Finally, representation for your people.
Absolutely. Representation, you know. Where's skateboard representation in Congress? Non-existent.
Non-existent.
But Riley, here's the thing. I'll shout out Riley Moore. How old is he? He's like 40 something.
He's 40.
Young
I felt like he
40s.
was like 38. I feel like he's a baby.
How old is he?
He's young 40s. I'm not
Young,
sure
early
exactly.
40?
Right. I'll see if I can find it.
You can tell that he is now a family man who works hard at his job and does not skate very often, because you can see the glimmer of pure skill that once existed in his, in his younger days. There, like he was skating here and he was doing a few tricks, and I was like, I bet 20 years ago this dude was super good at skateboarding. And
He's
now
43.
43. Now he's a dad. Now he works, and now he's a treasurer, and so he doesn't skate that often. And he came here during our event. He did a kickflip on the bank, which is it's good, and he still got it. But you can tell that he was top tier. Now he's moving on to more important work.
I just think it'd be funny if, because the day you did the opening party, he was here skating. If one day I walk in and it's this congressman skating the ramp with you and doing all this stuff.
Will be.
Like, it would be amazing.
It's a state treasurer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
So funny.
Yeah, we had a contest, and I was like, should we do a bounty for land a kickflip on the bank as an elected representative for a state? Like, he's the only one who can do it. All right, everybody, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Head over to timcast.com. The uncensored call-in show will be beginning in a couple minutes, where you, as members, get to call in and talk to us. It's a lot of fun. It's not so family-friendly. And we actually, like 2 days ago, we had like a 20-minute caller talking about business and entrepreneur, it was business advice, being asked about investment and strategy and stuff like that. So, that happens too. You can follow the show and me personally at Timcast on X and on Instagram. I finally started posting things on Instagram. I never did. And I was like, how about I just post the clips from the show on my Instagram, because I normally don't do anything, and they're getting a ton of views, so it's probably a smart thing to do. And Timcast IRL on Instagram as well. But don't forget rumble.com/Timcast IRL. Dr. Marshall, do you want to shout anything out?
Oh yeah, check me out on YouTube and Rumble. Just my name, Dr. Taylor Marshall Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter or go to my site, taylormarshall.com.
Right on.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. You can catch us on tour this summer on the Destroy All Enemies tour with Megadeth and Mudvayne, starting August 2nd, going through till September 28th. All That Remains has a new single out. The song is called Divine. You can check it out on Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, Amazon Music. Whatever, with Deezer, the internet. Don't forget, the left lane is for crime. Hannah Claire, help me out here.
The internet tip, Phil.
The
That's all
internet.
you need to know. It's been so fun to be here. I'm so glad you could join us, Dr.
Yeah,
Marshall.
thanks for having me.
I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for SCNR.com. That's Scanner News. You should follow Scanner's work at Timcast News on Instagram and Twitter, that other one, the internet. You should do something for your mom for Mother's Day if you have a mom. She's a nice lady, I'm sure, or maybe she's not. If you want to follow me personally, I have an update. It's on Twitter, it's Hannah Claire B, and on Instagram, it's hannahclaire.b, because I couldn't make them the same thing. Guys, look, I'm a professional internet person. Bye, Serge.
Proud of you. Cheers, everyone. Have a good night.
We'll see you all over at timcast.com for the uncensored members only show in a couple minutes. Thanks for hanging out.